Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry we're running a few minutes behind. Thank you for joining us for the Sacramento City Unified School District meeting. We have called this meeting adjourned. Adjourned? I'm trying to leave early. We have called this meeting here. I was trying to get us all out of here fast. Item 4.0, call back to order, Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mindy Cha, a junior at Luther Burbank High School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could just stay right there.
Hey, I get the pleasure of talking about Mindy Cha today. She is a junior at Luther Burbank High School. Woo, go Titans. Mindy is a full IB candidate. She has been very active in her school community for the past 2 years as an ASB representative for her class, organizing rallies, school events, and community events. Mindy is an advocate for tobacco prevention. She is a part of ACT UP, the Asian Coalition for Tobacco Use Prevention, a member of Breathe California, great organization, and a co-director of Anti-Tobacco PSA. Mindy also has a huge passion for dance and is currently the president of Luther Burbank's award-winning dance team, Monsters, Inc. Our Board of Education is proud to recognize Mindy Cha as our stellar student today. Everyone give her a hand.
Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you for the award, and thank you for nominating me for this. And like Diana said, I was a representative of ASB, and I am currently leading Monsters, Inc. And over there sitting at the corner is my dance teacher. And I'll just like to thank everybody here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session.
Yes, Madam President. There are two announcements. The superintendent has an appointment announcement, and I have the following announcement. The adoption by the board, all 7 board members adopted Resolution 2016-17-A, a resolution approving notice of intent to dismiss and statement of charges and imposition of suspension without pay of a certificated employee. That concludes my announcement, Madam President.
Thank you. Superintendent?
And I am pleased to announce that the board unanimously approved the appointment of James Tucker as new principal of Bret Harte Elementary School. Just some really quick background information. There were 17 initial applications for that position, of which 8 were referred to what's called a Tier 1 interview. That's the first level. And then from there, 3 were moved on to Tier 2, of which James was one of those. And James is currently a Waldorf teacher, grades 1 through 3 at A.M. Wynn, but he's also served as an interim principal in our district before and a head teacher. The panel was really impressed with not just his enthusiasm, but his connection to the community, his keen understanding of the situations and the challenges that exist with Bret Harte, and his commitment to be there and to be able to engage not only the students, teachers, and staff, but to willingness to go out and engage in a very positive manner with the community as well. So again, Very pleased to be able to announce that James Tucker is now principal of Bret Harte Elementary.
Great. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. Okay, thank you. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. We now have an agenda. Item 7.0, special presentation. 7.1, recognition of Sutter Middle School State Fair Award winners. Member Cochran?
I would be very pleased if the teacher would come up right now and the students. And the kids that are here, many of them have gone on to high school, so I'm interested to see if they've been able to come tonight. For the most part, it looks wonderful. Thank you. California State Fair has a long and wonderful tradition of recognizing artists, bakers, chefs, and we have the level of skill with these young artists. Not only are they just taking images of pictures, but they're telling stories with the images. They are reaching down into emotion, situation, time, and place, and bringing forward passion, competition, and histories of people, and even using buildings and objects to make one ponder and think. I laud you for your excellent artistry and congratulations on your first place winnings and others from the California State Fair.
Well, they're all in high school. So, yeah. Yeah, but so I will give out what we can tonight and then we'll have it. Yeah, we have a couple of things to say.
Lauren Stewart, Mara Faber, Ann Robinson, and Samia Raspberry. And Shane Osby. Award winners there were. Boy Van Wyn. Sophia Long. Leslie Leon. Taylor Hughes.
Sochi.
Sochi. There you go. And Jan Gardner. And Noelle Gallardo.
Not here.
Okay, we've got Savon Downey. Celeste Dietenbrock.
Her mom's there.
Yeah, I think
Mom will come get it.
okay, fantastic. And Forward. And Javier Barbosa.
Nope.
And Emma Basco. And Julia Arich. Marcos Aguilar.
Yeah.
You can stand up.
That guy.
And just quickly while we're up here, I want to thank a couple of people. I want to thank Chad Schweitzer for starting the photography program at Sutter. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, David Rodriguez and Kristen Tahara Martin, for growing that program. We're huge now. Thank you so much. Thank you to the board for recognizing us. Thanks to the students that worked so hard. And I'm going to let one of my students take over and say something.
Good evening. My name is Mara Saber, a former Sutter Middle School student, and now I'm a freshman at West Campus. I just wanted to say that while I took photography my 8th grade year, I made so many memories and learned so many valuable skills that I could easily use if I were to pursue a job or career in photography. We learn life skills, and we learn skills how we can view the world through different perspectives, and we learn that there is so much more behind photography than just taking selfies on your phone. So I just wanted to say that, speaking on behalf of my entire class, that we made so many memories and learned so many valuable things that, again, we can use in the future, that we all just had a blast. And thank you again for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much for coming out. We didn't have any public comment, Gabe, did we? No. Okay. 7.2, Phoenix Park, Freedom Schools. Miss Bell. Miss Stacy Bell. I know she's here. I saw her. Oh. She's coming. Yeah.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Board President Prickett and Superintendent Banda and board members. My name is Jackie Rose. I'm the Executive Director, CEO of Focus on Family, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Phoenix Park Children's Defense Fund Freedom Schools program, a wonderful program. Freedom Schools is a 6-week program that we have been running in Phoenix Park for the last 2 years through the Youth Development Department, which is a wonderful department that helps us do everything that we need to do with kids, and we just absolutely love it. Tonight, we're going to be talking to you about how this program has absolutely changed lives. It is an integrated reading program, and our kids get the opportunity of really looking at culturally diverse books, books that look like them, really going over that curriculum. Our servant leader interns, who you see in the red shirts back there, actually go back to Tennessee every year and do 7 days of intense training, 10 to 12-hour trainings on this curriculum. And then they come back here and they actually roll out this curriculum to our scholars that you see here in the blue shirts. And it's an absolute, if you haven't been to our program and you haven't seen it, Superintendent Banda has been there, board member Jesse Ryan has been there, and they've actually seen it in person. And board member Wu has also been there. And so you have to be there to actually feel this energy that the kids actually get involved with. We're excited to be here tonight. We had 91 scholars. We were only supposed to have 80, but it's really hard to turn families away. It's hard to turn scholars away. We had a wonderful opportunity of partnering with City College, who gave us 15 Yamoja students, SBA, who are going to be transfer students into Sac State University who want to be teachers. We're really excited about them partnering with us because that's an opportunity for them to be working with our scholars at this level right now, but hopefully in your school district in the future. So we're really excited about that opportunity. So that 91 wasn't as bad because we actually had maybe 3 adults in that classroom working on that integrated reading curriculum with our scholars. So that was really a wonderful thing to have. We had many partners. We had Birth and Beyond, who actually came in and did our parent workshops. One of our servant leader interns now is an instructor with Birth and Beyond, and she came and did those weekly parent workshops, empowerment workshops with our parents once a week, and it was a mandatory session for them. In front of you, you'll see a calendar that we so graciously put together for you, that our entrepreneur club actually put together. The kids actually put this together, and they are charging $10 and selling this calendar for the whole year. So you'll get to see some highlights of all the things that they did from January all the way to December of the wonderful things that they actually did in Freedom School. And without further ado, I don't think I missed anything. The kids want to show you a little bit of what we do in the morning, and it's called Harambe. It's Swahili for Let's Pull Together. It's a wonderful feeling that gets our kids motivated to go into that integrated reading curriculum and really be ready for the day. And in the afternoon, we spend in clubs and STEM programs and things like that that are fun. But we actually make sure that they do the work in the morning hours, and in the afternoon, they get to participate in a lot of intentional activities in the afternoon. So it's a wonderful program. So without further ado, again, all of the servant leader interns that you see back there, they're college students that actually went to that 7-day training in Tennessee, and they will tell you, if you talk to them, that it's intense. It's 7 days of real work. And so they come back here ready to actually engage in this curriculum with our students in Sac City. So they're going to do some cheers and chants and show you a little bit of Harambe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, scholars.
G-O-O-D, M-O-N-I-N-G, good evening. Good evening. G-O-O-D, M-O-N-I-N-G, good evening. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening.
How are you feeling today?
Fantastic! Terrific! Great! Oh, let one! Whoa!
What day is it today?
It's Thursday, and Harambe, and Freedom School's in the house. Say what? It's Thursday, and Harambe, and Freedom School's in the house. Say what? It's Thursday, and Harambe, and Freedom School's in the house. Say what? It's Thursday, and Harambe, and Freedom School's in the house. Say what?
Cheers and cheers.
Cheers and cheers!
Cheers and cheers.
Cheers and cheers!
Cheers and cheers.
Check, 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 cheers and cheers!
Study hands. Hey. Everybody going on in the Freedom School.
So we gotta go around in the Freedom School.
We're
We're gonna have a lot of fun 'cause reading is school.
Where we at, y'all?
Where we at, y'all?
Where we at, y'all?
Where we at, y'all?
We got it. We got it. We got it.
We got it, we got it, we got it.
We got it. We got it.
We got it, we got it, we got it.
Right minds.
In the house. recognition. I said I have a recognition. I would like to recognize the board for letting us come here to perform.
Time for a moment of silence. Hush.
Hush. Time for a moment of silence.
More positivity. Out all of your negative energy. Say,
Ashe. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. Take a seat. Take a load off of your feet. Take a seat. Take a seat. Take a load off of your feet. Sit on down. Sit on down. Board members, as you can see that there's a lot of energy. I have one more person real quickly that I need to have speak tonight. What we did in Phoenix Park is we have a Head Start site there, and our Head Start students who are getting ready to come to kindergarten came to Harambe every day. And I have one of the teachers that wants to tell you a little bit about how that impacted those Head Start students. I would like Leslie Carlisle to come up here for just a minute.
Hello to all of you on the board. My name is Leslie Carlisle. In 25 years of early childhood education, I spent 15 of those years with your district, Sacramento Unified School District, with the preschools, Bret Hart, C.P. Huntington, Washington. I have never seen a site like Freedom Schools. You have to see it. Like Miss Jackie said, you have to really, really see it. Some of you I've seen come there and read stories. And you need to look at this because it hasn't been done. I'm trying to shorten this. I got all this paper and I can't read it all. But I'm just, as an educator, I've never seen this in your program. It's awesome. Come out and see it again and make Sacramento Unified School a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, did we have a public comment?
We have one comment on this item from Darlene Anderson.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent Banda. What an amazing opportunity for a few African American children in this district. And just think about how that engagement, the different type of engagement, engaged those children over the summer. 6 weeks, only 6 weeks. And look how engaged they were. What can we do for the rest of the African American children in this district who are not having that same opportunity? Because the opportunity looks different for them. And it's very, very different because not all people learn in the same way or the same manner. That was awesome. What an awesome opportunity for 91 children. How many African American students do we have in the district? And how many African American students are deemed below grade level in RSP support that we could have perhaps changed their environment over the summer? Because I can't say that special ed comes to present to you what they did with the students over the summer. That just doesn't happen. And so I think it really has to do with the governing board. This Freedom School model is incredible, and I think that you know that it works. I think it's important that we expand somehow the program and reach more students who are below grade level at a young age, to engage them to read a book because it's so critical. And so I can't think we can still do what we do and ignoring that we do have a major problem with African American students. Opening up these doors to engage these students so young changes the whole dynamics and the whole playing field for all kids. And I think that this is one time where the board should have a conversation with staff to determine how we can expand this program over the summer. Thank you, and congratulations, young people.
Thank you.
We do have one more comment on this item from Stacy Bell.
You were on the agenda. You didn't need to turn in the card.
Hi, everyone. Board President Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, members of the board. I'm Stacy Bell, and I'm a mother in Sac City Unified of Sac City Unified School District graduates and of a current Martin Luther King Jr. student, and also a Freedom Schools mom. So two of my children got to participate in Freedom Schools this summer, one as a young scholar and one as a servant leader. So when you saw me running around with my dying cell phone, I was FaceTiming my daughter, who is currently a junior at Tuskegee University in Alabama, because her students were upset that Miss Janae wasn't here. But along with Board Member Ryan, we can't say enough positive things about Freedom Schools. Truly life-changing, I think, not only for the students that participate, but also the college-age servant leaders that really grow, hopefully into teachers that want to come back and serve our district. So thank you.
Vice President Ryan.
So first, I'd like to thank the incredible servant leaders and scholars who came out to present on Freedom Schools tonight. The amazing Harambe leader over there, Mr. Jordan in the corner, I was blessed to call him my daughter's teacher over the course of the summer through the Freedom Schools model at Phoenix Park. So I want to tell you, many of you know that my daughter came to us at 3.5, having had no foundational literacy school skills, no exposure to books. And going into Freedom Schools at 6 years old, I expected that she might gain some love of reading. What I didn't expect is that she would develop a family, a greater connection to culture and sense of herself. For the first time, my daughter spent 5 weeks telling me every day that she couldn't wait to go to school instead of asking me to stay home. She saw children that looked like her and educators that looked like her and young college students who were achieving great things across the country who looked like her. And I'm quite emotional when I talk about this because this is an incredibly special model. Everyone who comes in to see the Freedom Schools at Phoenix Park model leaves believing this should be happening in classrooms across the district. My daughter would say that Miss Janae, who is Stacy Bell's daughter, was her sister. And where was her sister? And she wanted to be just like her because if Miss Janae could go off to a top college, then Brooklyn could go off to a top college too. So when we talk about how do we bring high impact programs to the school district that close our opportunity gaps and meet the needs of students who are often underserved, what it means is having the willingness to step out of the traditional models and take an innovative approach. Many of you had never heard of Harambe before, but the reality is that grounding in culture, having connection to dance and heritage, then opens up our young scholars' mind to a love of reading, a love of literature, and a belief that they can be something more in this world. And I just want to end by saying one thing. I ran across a couple of the scholars from Freedom Schools in the library of the Magic Johnson Community Center. And I went up to them and I said, do you still enjoy reading after Freedom Schools? And they said, we come in here all the time to read. And not only do we like to read, but these young people who were in like 3rd and 5th grade told me they were going to go to college. And I said, where are you going to go to college? And one of them said, well, you know, Davis is a school I like, but my reach college, my dream college is UCLA. Now, how amazing is it that in a high poverty area where in the backyard of Freedom Schools we have Section 8 housing, we have young scholars aspiring to go to an elite university? Why isn't that the reality at each and every one of our schools? Thank you, Ms. Rose, for your leadership.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to pick up where Vice President Ryan left off. Thank you, Miss Rose, and all of your team at Phoenix Park, because you do so many great things for not only the children of Phoenix Park, but the adults. And you make everyone feel welcome. And I am so excited because you're not going to believe this. Just today at work, they're asking me, hey, put your calendar order in, because and I go, I'm not ready, and I haven't picked the calendar out. I picked the calendar out. So thank you, and I'm going to come down and give you a check because I think it's truly wonderful that you have an entrepreneur club over at Phoenix Park. So thank you, and thank you as well for teaching our little ones, because that is the foundation of where we all come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Hansen?
I'd also like to say thanks and assure folks that we also have a program at Leotata Floyd Elementary School that is in my area that I've participated in several times over the summer, and the same kind of results are there. It's an engaged students. I think we have almost 140 students at that site, so it's pretty large and remarkable. And I'm a big fan as well. It's great to see. And that's the kind of stuff that I'd love to see us do as much as we can over the summer. And it's really great to hear your comments that the students show up to school really fired up, ready to go when school starts, because that wasn't always how I arrived to school after summer break. I kind of wanted summer to keep going. So it's great that we can work on academic programs that get kids ready to come back fired up for school.
Member Cochran?
So there's not much I can say that hasn't already been voiced about the great program. But here's a challenge for you. We've got some young entrepreneurs here, and we've got maybe about 50 people in the audience. I've got a $10 bill right here. Another member's writing a check. Let's buy some calendars, people.
I agree. Member Wu?
Pritchett. Miss Jackie, I just want to say, Phoenix Park has breathed life into a neighborhood that was dearly, dearly dying. And I really want to thank you for your efforts. So I have a check here, too.
Thank you. Sorry. First off, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming out. That was so inspirational. And they made me, tonight, that made my night. That cleared my mind. It made me feel positive. I can only imagine what it feels like in that classroom every single day. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for bringing this to our students. And I agree. I think that we should have this at more of our schools. So I also have money. I'd like to just give you $20 for my one calendar. And you can give a calendar to someone that's in need. If you can bring that down to her. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, here we go. We started a trend. Once again, thank you. And I would like to be on the record. I wish that we could have your family here every night with us to start out our meetings. We could get a lot done. So thank you once again. And I'll hang my calendar proudly. All right. Item 7.3, approve resolution number 2904, Proposition 58, the California Language Education Acquisition Readiness Now Learn Initiative. Superintendent Banda.
Thank you, Madam President. So approved resolution number 2904 is in support of Proposition 58, or what's also referred to as the Learn Initiative. It's a ballot initiative that's on the November 2016 ballot that will support the continued teaching of English in our schools. Opens up the avenues to multilingual education for all of our students and amend parts of Proposition 227. Under a current system, too many California students are being left behind, and not given the opportunity to learn English with the most effective teaching methods possible. This is because of an outdated, nearly 20-year-old law, Prop 227, many of you may remember that, which restricts the instructional methods school districts can use to teach English. The old law also limits the ability of English-speaking students to participate in language immersion programs. Prop 58 amends the law to ensure that all students can learn English as quickly as possible. And so it's time to remove the barriers to learning for all of our students by supporting Prop 58. And if you would permit me, I will very quickly read the resolution. Whereas all California school children have the right to an equal opportunity to advance and excel in all subjects, including the opportunity to develop fluency and literacy in the English language as well as other languages. And whereas the Board of Education of the Sacramento City Unified School District believes that a world-class 21st century education must ensure that every student has the opportunity to learn, read, communicate, compose, and think at a high level of sophistication in both English and additional languages. Whereas Proposition 58, the California Learn Initiative, is consistent with this governing board's dedication to improving student outcomes and the need to produce graduates with skills which prepare them for employment in the global economy. And whereas California employees across all sectors, both public and private, are actively recruiting multilingual employees because of their ability to forge stronger bonds with customers, clients, and business partners. And whereas passage of Proposition 58, the California Learn Initiative will provide the Sacramento City Unified School District with more flexibility and greater educational options concerning the education of our students, along with a greater opportunity for our students to access innovative language programs. Whereas Prop 58, the California Learn Initiative, provides school districts greater local control in devising programs for their students to improve mastery of English and other languages. And whereas the California School Board Association supports Prop 58 and the California Learn Initiative, and whereas Prop 58, the California Learn Initiative, was placed on the November 8, 2016 general election ballot as a result of bipartisan action by the California legislature. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education supports Prop 58, the California Learn Initiative. Thank you.
Great, thank you. This is an action item, so I get oh, wait, sorry, we have comments. Sorry about that. Member Cochran? Oh, okay, never mind. We don't have any board comments. Do we have any public comment? All right. Oh, sorry, my screen's not working correct, so I apologize. Member Wu?
Thank you, President Pritchett. Since we have no public comment, I was going to move the action item.
Thank you. Second. Got a motion in a couple seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Thank you. Student Board Member Rosas, do you have something you'd like to share with us? This, yeah.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded in its entirety and will be cable cast on Metro Cable 14 and local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air Sunday, September 18th at 9 a.m., Tuesday, September 20th at 9 a.m., and webcast at WWSAC Metro Cable TV. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please fill out a speaker form located in the back of the community room and give them to our Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Ross. Prior to the conclusion of the items presented, please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is on the agenda, we will ask that you please defer your comment until your item comes up on the agenda. Please also turn off your cell phones and place them on silent or vibrate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 8.0, public comment.
We do have 4 comments on 8.0 from Rosie Arcona, Darlene Anderson, Angie Sutherland, and Nikki Malevsky.
hear me? Good evening, President Pritchett, Superintendent Banda, and board members. My name is Rosie Arcona, and I've been a certificated teacher in this district for 20 years, mainly in elementary school. I'm here in support of the SPARK initiative. Just to refresh our memories, it's a long acronym. SPARK stands for SEL, Positive Relationships, Analysis of Data, Restorative Practices, and Kindness. So I get that there's some harm to relationships that need to be repaired around the rollout of SPARK and not necessarily the intent of SPARK. I hope that the district and SETA can strive to separate the two and resolve the disagreement about the process in a way that doesn't disrupt the work around equity that several sites, elementary and secondary, have been doing for years from the ground up. The SPARK initiative is meant to forward the work of integrating SEL, PBIS, and restorative practices, and more importantly, to forward and give other sites the supports they need to create structures and safe spaces for having the uncomfortable conversations about implicit biases that unintentionally create unequal opportunities for many of our students. A majority of sites have opened up the opportunity to be on SPARK teams to all their staff. Staff members have willingly agreed to those who have volunteered. Some schools are even finding ways to compensate every member that wants to be on these teams. The cry of unjust or unfair working conditions are non-existent at many sites. Despite the negativity that surrounds SPARK, many teachers felt that the SPARK trainings were valuable and believed that having these teams at sites would be beneficial. Some of them have renamed the teams just so they can continue the work without blame or shame of providing equal access to all opportunities for all our students. I would like us to be optimistic about the intentions of SPARK, recognize the humanity in one another, and resolve the issue around the process of rolling it out in a manner that allows the important work around the equity imperative to not be stalled or shrouded in negativity. Let's come back together and repair the harm and restore our relationships, and in so doing, demonstrate a united commitment to equity for all of our community and, more importantly, our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Good evening, Darlene Anderson. I think it's kind of important that whatever information you find on the website is current. I mean, I ran across an interactive LCAP plan that was then there from 2013. Then I tried to figure out if it was relevant because it went all the way up to 2017. And then somebody said, oh, that's old. So do every year, every 2 years, you just start something new? I'm concerned because there's no evidence of ever even meeting the goals or what you attempted to do. It says provide curriculum and assessment, to high quality curriculum to graduate students at college level, but most students in this district don't have access to grade level curriculum because they're below grade level. And I think it's how we are working. When I look at the larger campuses of Poverty Kids and Edward Kimball, Cesar Chavez, John Steele Elementary, and Success Academy, now all in the South area, 95822. How frightening that all those poverty kids are there. I believe that Nat Colley Sr. sued Sac City Unified School District, and Sac City promised that they would not lump that many poverty kids all in one place. How do you provide that kind of service, the equitable services, to that many kids in poverty? How do you demonstrate that the LCAP is actually working there? It's kind of scary. And then as far as the SPARK and the willful defiance, the data that, 5.9% of the kids who are in, willful defiant or whatever, behavioral. And then you have about 85% of those kids are African American. What do they actually do? I don't know. But there are 85% of the population of the kids who are being willfully defiant. So when you talk about equity and access, and you talk about what's really happening, where's your data? There is no data. And, the little trees and the little flowers that you have on the plans, they don't tell me anything. I can't go into the district's website and try to figure out how is the work getting done because there's no evidence of the work getting done. So I would appreciate it if you would hold staff to a higher standard and have them take off those trees off of the plans because that doesn't tell you anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sutherland?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Angie Sutherland. I'm speaking tonight for this Community Advisory Committee for Special Education. We did have a meeting on the special education audit with Superintendent Bonda, Dr. Taylor, and Becky Bryant. And parents and members were able to ask a long list of their questions. And we did get sort of a brief list of the concerns that the district has, that the reason for doing the audit. And we expressed our hopes that the CAC can be involved in scoping that out a little bit more, helping to design surveys, and helping to sort of participate along the way with the audit. We are now waiting for Superintendent Bonda's follow-up to send us the full scope and to engage the CAC in this process. And then I wanted to give a special thank you to Member Rodriguez and Nora Castro in parent engagement. There is a group called Apoyo de Padres para Padres. They meet at the Southgate Library every month, and they're a group of special education parents. Angie Rivera is the organizer. She's an amazing organizer in the community. And so they're a group of Spanish-speaking parents that meets about special education. It's a support group. So Diana went and spoke with them, with Nora, and encouraged, I don't know exactly what was said, but I'm assuming you were encouraging them to get involved and welcoming them to the CAC meetings. And Angie Rivera is going to be, she said that the parents are going to be coming to our meet and greet, which was my next item, which I'd like to invite all of you to. It's a meet and greet ice cream social, Tuesday, September 27th here at CERNA, 6:30 p.m. We're also inviting community organizations to come and share resources. And then in October, we're having our school climate workshop. That's going to be a great workshop. We're hoping to have a panel, including student members and district staff, and also to invite middle school and high school students to come, and we want to build empowerment and hopefully organize some kind of an empowerment conference or that the students can organize after that. So we'll have more details about that next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Malewski?
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Bonda. I'm Nikki Malewski, President of the Sacramento City Teachers Association. We are happy to report that we have scheduled several bargaining dates with the district beginning on Tuesday, October 11th, and it is our expectation to have a contract complete by December 1. With the district being in its best financial position in history, with more than $56 million in reserve, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make significant advances. These are opportunities that both educators and this board should not want to miss. It is with great concern to note that the district appears to have ended the year with a $14 million surplus, $5 million more than was projected last spring. That is millions of dollars that should have been spent on children in our schools today. We will be approaching these negotiations with the intention of making proposals that will make Sac City the destination district for our region and for California. We hope that the district will be prepared to have the kind of visionary and long-range discussion to create the kind of public school system that our students deserve, and one in which teachers want to teach and educators want to be here. One that focuses on the whole child and not one that is distracted by unnecessary and duplicative testing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez?
Thank you, President Pritchett. I just wanted to recognize somebody who came before us today, Ms. Kona. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming and providing the perspective that you did. And I know that it's just not your perspective. You speak for many others. So I want to thank you for that. Sometimes it's a confusing issue when we hear, one side, and, I'd like to hear all sides. So I want to thank you for that, for coming before us. Also, thank you to Darlene Anderson for always coming forward and talking about a community that she holds very near and dear to her heart. So I want to thank her for that. And I would like to encourage all board members to show up to the September 27th meeting. I did speak with the parents over there and committed that I would show up on the 27th and they would see me there. And it was very interesting to hear that group and to see the group and how they interacted. So I want to thank you for reaching out to me and inviting me to that, to Angie, both Angies. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Item 9.0, public hearing. 9.1, consideration of public notice of the district's initial proposal to Sacramento City Teachers Association, SCTA, regarding certificated unit collective bargaining 2016 through 2019, successor agreement negotiations. Ms. McCarn and team. Okay.
Good evening, Concy McCarn, Chief Human Resource Officer. Good evening, President Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, and members of the board. As we are here tonight, thank you, Ann, for getting that started, to share with you the district's initial proposal to our SCTA labor relations, our partners, our labor partners. I'd like to begin by introducing you to the team that will be serving as the negotiations team during the upcoming negotiations. And if you would, they were on the other side. If you would all please stand. We have Scott Holbrook, who will be serving as our lead negotiator, from an attorney from Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Root, and Romo. We have Ted Appel, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Labor Relations. Dr. Iris Taylor is the Chief Academic Officer. Tu Mua Caro as the Area Assistant Superintendent. Mary Harden-Young as an Area Assistant Superintendent. Gerardo Castillo as our Chief Business Officer. And Cindy Nguyen as our Employee Relations Director. Okay. And I'm going to invite Scott Holbrook up to speak further in detail with you about the actual initial proposal, but want to share we look forward to engaging in a collaborative process with our labor partners.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to assist the district as we move forward with negotiations with the teachers union. Before I get into discussing the initial proposal that's before you for our first reading, I was so impressed by that presentation that our firm is going to go ahead and make a contribution to that organization. We have a program in our firm called BookSmart that really promotes reading in public schools in the community. It's a partnership we have with Scholastic Book, the Scholastic Book Company. So we're going to go ahead and make a contribution to that organization.
Thank you.
All right. Now, having said that, what you have before you is really a first reading of our initial proposal that will be presented to the Sacramento City Teachers Association. By law, before the parties can negotiate a collective bargaining agreement, we are required to post that initial proposal to allow for public input, to allow the public to express itself on items that will be negotiated by the parties. Now, this is a first reading, so technically that formal sunshining, which it's commonly called, will occur at the October 6th board meeting. So this is really just an opportunity to invite the board to provide any comment, which it may feel inclined to do. We have had a preliminary meeting with the leadership from SCTA, and we have invited them to present their proposal, and they have obliged and have indicated that they plan to get that to us so that we can include it in the packet that will go before the board at the October 6th meeting. So we look forward to receiving that from them. What you do have before you really are brief references to all of the articles in the contract. There are 26 articles, and there are a number of appendices and other attachments. Because we are proposing, or the district is proposing, a successor agreement for over multiple years from 2016 through 2019, which I'll add is the standard typically throughout the area and up and down the state. We are proposing to present a number of amendments that deal with each of these articles, and having reviewed some of the contract, we are also proposing to make some amendments that will, in essence, update the contract. It's my understanding there are a number of agreements, MOUs, and so on that have been passed between the parties. And so to make sure that we're all on the same page, we'd like to use this opportunity to also infuse those agreements into the contract and also to bring the contract up to date with legal compliance and other laws that are now in effect that may not be clearly reflected in the contract. Having said that, if there is any questions you may have for me about the process or any comment, I would gladly accept that at this time.
Do we have any public comment?
We have 2 comments on 9.1 from Darlene Anderson and Liz Guillen.
Darlene Anderson. I think looking back on the history of the teacher's contract and recalling Rachel Holland and how difficult that was to get her into an environment where she had access to the general education, or so her parents thought, but she won. And then the district was supposed to integrate special ed into full inclusion, kind of. And then we're looking at the inability of a segment of the population to achieve basic education and measure that. And then when the dollars for the LCAP are going to go to supplement the teachers, it's difficult for me to understand where's the accountability for student achievement in this district. Most African American parents don't advocate as strongly as I do, simply because we've been through some stuff in America. It hasn't been easy. And the public education system, after Brown versus the Board of Education, just placed us here. And then there was supposed to be all this additional time to meet the needs of all students. But for whatever reason, fairness and equity is a big challenge. And whenever I come up here and talk about the lack of the ability for all kids whose parents are not as strong as myself to be successful, it's frightening, because we're not expecting the same thing. We're saying, oh, those are poverty kids, and they have all these challenges, and they need all this support. But that doesn't prevent children from learning. It's how people see them what prevents them from learning. And so the contract is pushed through, but a lot of those teachers don't have to go to the IEP meetings. And they can select who they want to come into their classroom, who they don't want to. And when you're looking at the SELPA puts kids in RSP in the general ed, taking a general ed spot. Well, then it becomes that parent's responsibility to find a placement. There are all these issues that are really underlying for children or families who don't know how to access the system. And I think that when you're talking about negotiating the contract and taking the LCAP money that's supposed to do unduplicated services for these kids, you really need to make sure that it's going to affect those children. I don't care about anybody getting a raise, but what I do care about is that 12 years in this district may lead you to the prostitution or criminal activity, and when you get out of public school, you can't even feed yourself. I care about those things. And so I think you should care about those things when you're promising dollars for unduplicated services to teachers when they haven't even been willing to see all kids as being equal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Guillen?
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. I'm Liz Guillen with Public Advocates. I really appreciate this item. I think the purpose of this law for sunshine is really aligned with the transparency provisions around the LCAP and the LCAP process. As you know, the LCAP you adopted in June contained provisions that arose from the last negotiation, and it was unfortunate that the parent advisory committees weren't really aware of it until the first reading of the LCAP. And so I want to encourage this same type of sunshine in the discussions as they go along. I was pleased to hear that we will see SCTA's initial proposal in October. I want to encourage you to participate in the Public Education Forum that the Community Priority Coalition is endorsing, and Public Advocates is part of that. And I see that we have some elected, Mayor-elect Steinberg, and it looks like Board-elect Maya Vang will be there as well. It seems to me that with some of the issues that are identified to be discussed, that is an opportunity to really hear from community members who are participating about how the LCAP will or won't address the need that they have, or that they envisioned when they talked about it during the LCAP process last year. I was pleased to see that some of the student-centered priorities, such as smaller class sizes, early academic intervention, and restorative practices, are going to be part of, are on the agenda to be discussed. As a community member, I think it's really critical that the way decisions are made about the expenditure of funds, and especially supplemental funds, which, as you know, is my favorite fund to protect at the moment, are really important to participate in and have as much sunshine about as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. One more?
We do have one more comment on this item from Frank DeYoung.
Welcome, Mr. DeYoung. Long time no see.
Yeah, nice to see you too, President Pritchard, Superintendent Banda. I'm Frank DeYoung, and I'm with Hollywood Park Elementary School. And I'm here to speak on the issue I spoke to you about the last time I was here, which is my real concern is that the LCAP committee should not be the last ones to find out what's going on. I mean, we're being asked to review a plan and provide input to that plan. So when we have no idea what's going on, and I'm not saying we have to know all the details, but if we even had some idea of what was being considered, at least we would have some input to the process. We had no input to the process. We had no idea what was coming until it showed up the second meeting in June. That guess what? We're going to use supplemental funding to do this, which then personally drives me to meet with Superintendent Banda and the Strategic Planning Office to say, I got concerns, because my concern is with using that kind of funding, I don't believe it's sustainable. Look, we're fighting right now to make sure Proposition 55 passes or some funding is going to disappear. So when you're using funding like that can disappear in a year to pay teacher salaries, that rather concerns me, because that means we're going to have to find the money somewhere else. And the LCAP should have some input to that. Not that we get to approve it, I'm not saying that, but we should at least have the opportunity as part of the community to say, here's what we think. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez?
Thank you, President Pritchett. I have one question. I mean, you've heard all of the public comment this evening, but there's something that really concerns me here about a particular public comment, and because it's written down here, and it says, and this is from our Community Advisory Committee, it says one of her goals is to have Sac City Unified address the illegal provisions in the current SCTA contract that are in violation of the federal disability laws. Are you aware of those federal laws that are in conflict with our contract? And if not, then would you be open to having a meeting with our chair of the Community Advisory Committee, Angie Sutherland, who's here right now.
I'm not familiar with the specific concerns that are being addressed. We are conducting a comprehensive review of the entire contract. There are a number of areas that maybe not the best in compliance. There are a number of updates that we are working on. I'm not familiar with the specific one she's pointing at, but I would be more than willing to receive any information from her.
Okay, great. And then she's right here behind you. I want to encourage you, Angie, to connect with one of the architects of this document before us tonight. And also, though, Ms. Sutherland, is in all fairness and in equity here, because you really want this issue resolved, I want to encourage you to also speak to the union partner and point out what areas you're looking at that are in direct violation of the federal codes and regulations. Is that fair?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other board comment, this item is conference only. So thank you so much for your work. We're going out of public hearing. Item 10.0, consent agenda. Before we approve the consent agenda, we have public comment on item 10.1B and 10.1E. I see Gabe running.
We do have a public comment on 10.1B from Nikki Milewski.
And E.
We have a comment on 10.1E from Ms. Darlene Anderson.
Whoever's on 10.1B, that's first.
So I find it, I'm Nikki Milewski from the Sacramento City Teachers Association, and I find it pretty unfortunate that I need to come up here and draw your attention to the personnel transactions, page 2, number 14 on the reassignment status change. This is a position that has been created for the principal who was removed from Hiram Johnson High School. This position is Assistant Principal High School Consolidated Programs. And I've been doing some research trying to understand that. Consolidated programs are Title I, Title II, Title III funding sources. Assistant Principal job description has things like administer assigned programs and activities related to student discipline, attendance, and instruction at a high school or school of comparable size or complexity. Assist the principal with administrative duties involving student conduct, curriculum development, and plant operations as assigned. Supervise and evaluate the performance of assigned personnel. It does not make sense that this position, Assistant Principal High School, would be under consolidated programs. And in fact, I know that no such assistant principal has ever been created or assigned to consolidated programs. And I find it deeply disturbing that we have this former principal of Hiram Johnson 2 years ago, beginning of last year, was removed from high school, that school site, for a good reason, and is now having this position created. Look, we need school psychologists. We need social workers, we need nurses, we need more counselors, we need a lot to support restorative practices in our schools. And this kind of use of money is not acceptable. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm sorry for the frustration, but I just really don't feel that I need to look in the board packet and find this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Name and not be in the room. Darlene Anderson. 10.1E. I didn't make it to the board meeting last time, but I do know that you guys passed the SRO contract. And what concerned me in regards to the SRO contract and the LCAP, and I thought you guys were going to bring it back tonight, but apparently that didn't happen because, I watched till the end. And so what didn't happen is the number of African Americans who are actually having, interaction with SROs, school resource officers, and how many times the school is using the SROs for African American children. And, you know, I don't know if you guys watched the board meeting, the city council meeting, but the young man that was shot 16 times in the back, and the young man was shot 10 times in the back. And we're talking about African American people and how they're being treated in Sacramento, and the relationship of what that looks like, and the lack of training, and the lack of what you're saying that you're going to use the school resource officers for, and how we're going to lower the willful defiance issues, but then to give them like carte blanche without describing how you want to lower the use of them at the high schools and how you want to lower the use of them with families. I mean, I work with families who had officers come to their house to deliver them notices not to come to the school site because they've been suspended. And that's because they don't have appropriate language or someone got offended by them. But automatically, it doesn't really matter. They get that 15-day suspension and they can go be arrested. They can't, I mean, you know, a lot, it's how you're using these resources and how you're using the, what is that, CPS? My goodness. A lot of poor families are being documented with CPS. And it's how we're using these resources that it's troublesome because you're not asking your staff to present that data to you so you can make a good decision and to pass a board objective, you know, whatever, of the direction the district is going to without any data, no information. It's concerning because it shows me that you're not really trying to do the work. You're just trying to keep things going the way they're going. And it's just unacceptable, especially since we have the LCAP and we're supposed to have parent involvement and parent engagement, community engagement. That engagement is not happening if you don't have data and you've not presented it to the community that's most affected. It's just not happening.
Thank you,
So,
Ms. Anderson.
thank you.
Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second? A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Consent agenda passed. 11.0, Board Workshop Strategic Plan and Other Initiatives. 11.1, Monthly Facilities Update. Hello, Mr. Dobson.
Good evening, President Pritchett, board members, and Superintendent Bonda. So tonight we're going to review a variety of our summer projects. We have different categories that we use. Core academic renovation. We're going to review 3 different school projects: McClatchy, Kit Carson, and West Campus. We're going to do a little review of our emergency repair program, our class size reduction efforts this summer, and our program enhancement projects. And those are Theodore, Judah, and Washington. So core academic renovation at CK McClatchy, we're completing phase 1 of our renovation, and that includes the demolition of interior space to create space for the new visual and performing arts wing. And there was a roof replacement that was conducted this summer as well. And again, that will go into phase 2, which will be the creation of the new visual and performing arts wing. So our cost to date so far is just a little over $4 million for that so far. I do have a picture here of, this is the CK McClatchy Auditorium. You can see that some of the seats have been removed. There's some soundproofing material that was taken off of the ceiling and the sides of the wall, prep it for the renovation project. Also a picture, exciting picture of the roof at McClatchy. This was during construction. They sealed in some of the areas so that we didn't have any dust or debris falling in while they're doing the work. Our next core academic renovation project is Kit Carson. At that project, we removed 7 portable buildings and made the space for the construction of the science, art, and black box theater area. We provided new security fencing and redesign of the school entrance, which allowed for the creation of a new student technology center. And our cost to date for that project is about $5.5 million. We have a few pictures on that. So the photo on the bottom left Where the construction truck was where the 7 portables were at. Those have all been removed to make way for the new wing that's being added. Right in front of the truck is the foundation that's being put in for the fire lane. The picture that's on the top right, where the construction worker is after some of that concrete has been poured. And those blocks on the left are the seating area that can be used for viewing inside of the black box theater that will be constructed there. And then at West Campus, our third core academic renovation project, that project will consist of the removal of 2 portable buildings, construction of a new 2-story science and engineering wing. We will be eliminating a safety hazard. Currently, students at Mark Twain must cross a fire lane to get over to West Campus. So we're redesigning that, creating a new entrance to the staff parking area and the construction of a new practice field. Now, to date, our costs are only a little over $800,000, and that's because that project is still in design. Next is our emergency repair program. Unfortunately, that program will be coming to an end. It was a program that was created by the state of California to address health and safety issues at our lowest performing schools. Sac City got a little over $60 million, and that's like the number 3 position in the state of California as far as the amount of money that was received through this grant project. And with those dollars, we completed 242 projects at 41 of our school sites. And I know I've provided information several times on our ERP project and all the great work it's done, but just to recap a couple highlights on that. Burbank was one of the recipients of about $4.5 million of ERP funds. And with that, we were able to address elevator repairs, kitchen issues, concrete and asphalt tripping hazards, and a variety of other projects that were done at that site. We also received about $2.2 million at John Still Middle School. And with that, we did a roofing project, and we are in the process of doing an HVAC replacement there for the admin wing. Pacific Elementary was another school that received money through the ERP program, and they received about $2.2 million. And with that, we did paving and a roofing project. I do have a couple pictures of an ERP project. This one is at Peter Burnett. The picture on the top right, as you can see, the decaying wood there, that was the shade covering over the windows. We replaced all of the windows with new metal frame windows, and we replaced all of the shade covering over the windows for that. Moving on to class size reduction. This was a project that facilitated the reduction of our primary grades to 24-1. That project cost just a little over $3.5 million. And with that, we installed 22 newly renovated modular classrooms. Now, those were classrooms that we already had in inventory. They were at sites. It might have been a vacant classroom that was not being used. We took it off the site, we renovated it, and reinstalled it at a school site that needed the additional capacity. And those were installed at 9 different sites. This is just a picture of one of the typical classrooms that was renovated. New floors, new whiteboards, new casework. They almost look new. Our program enhancement projects, Theodore Judah being one of those. At Theodore Judah, we are constructing a 2-story, 9 classroom building. This will allow for the 3rd string of students that started as kindergartners in 2010 and provide capacity for the new residential development. It did require the demolition of 3 existing classrooms, and our cost to date is about $3.6 million in that project. Got a couple pictures here. There is action obviously out there, but there isn't a lot of detail work. They're still playing in the dirt. This is an aerial view of the construction site. If you were there for the groundbreaking, you probably recognize the trees that the folks were facing. and the classroom wing that is still remaining there at the top of the screen. So this is some of the foundations that are getting ready to be poured and the underground utilities that are going in place for the new building. And then our last program enhancement project tonight is Washington Elementary, where we've renovated 14 classrooms, office, a lounge area for the teachers, kitchen, multi-purpose room, and library. And this will accommodate the reopening of Washington as a STEAM school. And the project cost for that one so far is 4.6, almost 4.7 million. We have a couple pictures on that project. The top right is the old entrance to the school. And on the bottom left, you can see a new Washington monument. You can see an enclosure into the kindergarten play area, some seating area out front, and a new digital marquee as well. The top screen or top slide is a picture of the multipurpose room. There was some demolition work that was done already there. We removed the old flooring, took down a lot of the old acoustic sound panels. And the bottom is the new floor, new acoustic panels, and new lighting. So it certainly brightened up that area. And I believe this is our last, no, it's our last slide here. It's kind of a typical classroom. On the left, I'm not sure if that's the Harvest Gold from the 70s or if it was the burnt orange, but that was the carpet we had in the classroom. Very popular, yes. I was more of the avocado green person. But, on the right is, I believe, that same classroom as it looks today. And we have a new rubber flooring installed, new lights, new whiteboards, new furniture for the students and staff as well. That concludes my presentation tonight. If there are any questions or comments.
Thank you. Do we have public comment?
Darlene. One.
Anderson.
Good evening, Darlene Anderson. Okay, looking at Edward Kimball and Cesar Chavez and the boundaries, looking at John Steele and John Steele Mill, and actually, when can someone tell me the decision was made to move Success Academy over there behind Rosa Parks? I didn't hear about that. I didn't hear about how that was going to benefit those students. And so when you're looking at program and services for those kids, can you tell me what's happening with those kids in the area of Edward Kimball and Cesar Chavez and the data of what it looks like? Can you tell me what's happening at John Steele Middle and what their program and services look like? And my goodness, what's happening in Sacramento? Do you know those children generate more income than a regular student? All students generate the same dollar, except for when you're Title I or special needs. Now, I would imagine we have lots of kids who are Title I and special needs. But when we look at the data, well, when I look at the school site data from the single plan, I'm not seeing any huge improvements or any huge concept thinking changes. And I would like to ask the governing board to ask staff to prepare for the last 10 years. What's happened to those kids? Because I know a lot of those kids go to Burbank and drop out. A lot of those kids dropping out before even high school. But are we following that? I'm confused. What is the intent here? I mean, are we just have we created a segment of town, District 8, this is going to be dropout factory? Is this going to be dangerous in that area simply because the education or lack thereof is not happening? I'm concerned. I'm concerned when I look at Edward Kimball and who thought about that, creating that K6 or K3 and then K6, and upwards of 2,600 students at times during the last 10 years. And the same thing for John Steele Elementary, and the highest schools of poverty in Sacramento. And you haven't asked the district staff to produce. How can we make things better? And then we have a facilities person that's supposed to be looking at smaller class size reduction. How does that look, smaller class size reduction in a K3 when you have 900 kids? What is that? how is that supposed to benefit those kids? I'm going to wrap it up, but I think the governing board has work to do in those areas, and it's way beyond the LCAP. It's about program and services. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Hansen.
Thank you, Jim, for the presentation. I think one number really jumps out at me, and that's the ERP money, getting $60 million of state funds and scoring third of the state out of 1,000 school districts is great work on behalf of the facilities department. So thanks again for the effort of helping do that. And being integrally involved in watching, at least a couple of schools in my area, McClatchy and Washington Elementary, and the work that we're doing there, I think we're talking a lot, and I like it about making our district a destination school district, and having great facilities and great facility staff is a huge part of that. I hear from the parents a lot that clean schools and updating the facilities is really key to making life better for the students and the staff. It's really a huge benefit. Particularly, I know we've brought students from out of district to Washington, so we're drawing families here. And so that's something I really want to see us keep moving in that direction. And I know it's something that we need to make sure we're increasing your department and working on that. And when we have, we're in a good financial position now to do those kinds of things. I think that's something that's going to be important for us to continue working on that, and it makes a difference. So I just want to say I appreciate the work, and thank you for the update.
Superintendent Banda.
Yeah, I just want to also add that the work that the crew does during the summertime, because that's the only window that we have to do all these projects. It's incredible that they're able to get all these things done. I had the opportunity to go out to maintenance and operations and facilities and be able to, number one, treat the staff to a breakfast, but really more to acknowledge their dedication and hard work, because it's not just facilities. Facilities is there to make these improvements, but then we need the maintenance and operations folks to make sure that we maintain our campuses, which is very important. But we can never underestimate the impact that facilities has on student learning, because the first day of school, things went really smoothly. The schools I was able to visit and staff were able to visit, they came back and said the campuses look so inviting, so clean, safe. And I do believe that plays into mindsets in terms of kids, parents, community, and we should all be very proud. And we have a long ways to go. We know that there's still schools out there that need significant upgrades and modernizations, and we're committed to that. And we're going to go as far as we can with this bond. And when it runs out, we'll go back out and ask our community to support the work, because our kids deserve to study and be a part of high quality schools, and we're gonna remain committed to making those improvements going forward into the future. So thanks, Jim. Thank your staff once again. Thank everyone who's committed to our facilities and grounds, and committed to our children and to our communities.
I'll make sure I do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez.
Thank you, President Pritchett. First, thank you, Mr. Dobbs, for making that quick review of what was going on in some of the Area 5 schools, especially with Luther Burbank. I think there was so much work that's taken place there, and it's really good for the students. I was just there the other day, and as a former Titan, walking in those hallways with that new pavement really made a difference. Not seeing those blocks where the lockers were, it enlightened my spirit. So it deserves to be lifted and to be, and that shade tree area that we're going to be planting trees in. I mean, just it goes on and on with the number of improvements that happened over the summer. Although I didn't understand the reason why the grass was so tall until Principal Peterson explained to me that it had been seeded and they can't mow the lawn. And I was a little okay with that. So thank you for that mention. Also, I just wanted to make sure that, when people come forward and make public comments, they're not necessarily talking about maybe facilities on this item, and maybe more of a culture and an environment that takes place. And so, I did visit Cesar Chavez School the other day, and this is no secret. The superintendent does know this. I have said it to him in private, but I'll say it publicly. I'd like to see that whole system over there, because it's a dual immersion school, increase to a K through 8 school. There's so many wonderful benefits that come out of that level of education there. It is a dual immersion English Spanish school, and there's some very exciting things that are happening there. We have a great principal and great teachers, new ones that are there now. And the only thing I have to say is I wish the lawn would be mowed behind the buildings at both of the school sites. And it might be another thing of it. There was some seeding taking place, but I did see, and I'll tell you, I did see along the fence line, it's like the guy went in and mowed it and then left the middle, and it was as tall as up to my knees. So I don't know what the rationale was at, but it happened at every space where the children were not going to be playing in. The rest of the yard was mowed. It was just really weird. So
Make sure we check it out.
Great. Thank you for my board colleagues and superintendent for your comments. I just wanted to say that though I know that you guys are just tapped out, and the comments about safe and clean schools, some of our schools look spectacular. Others, not so much, at no fault of your own. I just learned over the summer that I shared at a past board meeting that I had to take pictures of one of my schools in my area and bring it to the superintendent and to the facilities department to show that there was overgrown trees, there was, cracked pavement with weeds growing in it. And these are where kids are supposed to come and feel pride. We should feel ashamed of that. We really need to put more effort into figuring out how can we get you more people? How can we get more funds in that account? Because when they come to school like that, how are they supposed to be in a healthy environment and wanting to be there and learn, right? So I just ask the board in future, think about this. Think about all those times when we're talking about safe and clean schools. Think about the ones that don't have that. So, but I do want to thank your department for your hard work. I know that you guys worked extra hours over the summer. You guys went out and cleaned that school site that I asked you to, and I know that I was not the only one. And I've been driving around to all my school sites. I've seen the same overgrown grass, cracked pavement. Sitting on the facilities committee, we see that projects are being put off till a later date because there's just not the funds, right? So I think that we all need to just open our eyes and figure this out, because our facilities are aging, and they are going to get worse and worse as time goes by. So, Superintendent, did you want to add something?
I do, just really addressing the concerns that you just raised. And, when I was over at Maintenance and Operations, I had an opportunity to meet with some of the directors there and talk about how we can address that very thing you talked about. During the last recession, the staffs were cut by more than half, and we're nowhere near back to where they were pre-recession. And so we are talking about what's the need. So we're going to continue to dialogue, because I want to know specifically what is the need in terms of whether it's staffing or other supports. And then Cabinet and I have had just an initial conversation around developing perhaps a restoration plan. We may not be able to restore everybody in 1 year, but let's develop a plan that says over the course of 3 to 5 years we're going to increase the number, because these guys, the schools that fall into disrepair, especially during the summertime, it's not because there are a lack of will or dedication. It's just shorthanded, and so if you have just so many mowers, I think there's 5 mowers, I think, and if one goes down and ill, it's not really, you can't sub for that person, so now you can fall further behind. So we're looking at all those things. I think we're looking at job designations and descriptions, and saying, the job descriptions that we have for what they do, does it still match the needs of today? And so we're looking at it, just to let you know, we're looking at it, and we definitely want to come up with a long-term plan that says, here's how we're going to address the need. Because schools, as I mentioned before, clean schools, safe schools are really a big part of student learning. So we want to make sure that we put that as a priority.
You mentioned when we have a mower go down, whether it's due to the operator illness, injury, whatever, or just the mower mechanical failure. I believe that Mr. Evepak shared with you that's 96 acres that does not get mowed that day.
96
It's a
acres.
phenomenal amount of stuff that we get behind them. So
Well, thank you.
Just a piece of information.
Yeah, and thank you, Superintendent, for bringing this awareness, bringing this to the forefront and finding a way that we can get through this. Thank you so much. Okay, 11.2, approve ratification of tentative agreement with Bargaining Unit Classified Supervisor Association, CSA. Ms. Farn? Hello again.
Hello again. Good evening, Board President Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, and members of the board. We are here this evening asking you to approve the ratification of a tentative agreement with our Classified Supervisors Association, CSA. The employees within this association include members, about 20 employees in total, approximately. And it includes supervisors within nutrition, maintenance and operation, and transportation as well. The agreement provides for a salary increase for members and helps to reduce the district's unfunded liability, to allow members to cash in additional vacation days up to 12. Currently it is 10 up to 12 per school year. And it reduces the number of emergency days that they have access to by 2 days. So from 3 days, reducing that down to 1. We, as always, would like to thank our Classified Supervisor Association negotiation team for all of their efforts in engaging in the process, and this does close out our 15-16 year. Staff recommends approval of this item.
Thank you. Do we have public comment? Do we have any board comment? Okay, this is an action item. Can I get a motion to approve? I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's quick and painless. And, oh, you better stay here. Item 11.3, approve the submission of credential waiver application to the California Commission of Teacher Credentialing for 2 ROTC teachers.
Good evening, Board Member Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, and members of the board. I have with me our Employee Relations Director, Cindy Nguyen, who is going to present this item for consideration of waivers for 2 of our ROTC teachers.
Good evening, President Pritchett. Superintendent Bond is not here right now, and members of the board. Education Code allows school districts to waive a portion of the requirement for a certificated teacher in order to allow time for completion. California Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires that every waiver request go through a board public notice process at the local level and must be approved in a public meeting prior to the submission of the employing agency to CCTC. I'm sorry. Areas requested with this waiver are for English language authorizations for 2 ROTC teachers. This waiver will enable the teachers in these difficult-to-fill positions the opportunity to complete the requirements set forth by CCTC and to remain in their positions and continue their work with students. Staff recommends approving this waiver request.
Thank you. Do I have any public comment? Do we have any board comment? All right. I need a motion to take this from conference to action. Second. We got a motion and a second. We are now in action. Do we have any board comment? All right. Can I get a motion for action? Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Passed. Thank you so much. 11.4, Strategic Plan 2016 through 2021 Implementation Report. Dr. Al Rogers.
Okay.
Good evening, Board President Pritchett, board members. I'm Al Rogers, Chief Strategy Officer, and I have here with me, actually it's a nice opportunity to introduce to you, to my right, Mr. Ed Eldridge, Director of the Strategy and Innovation Office. To my left, I have Ms. Kathy Morrison, our LCAP SIPSA Strategic Plan Coordinator, and we have also Ms. Sarah Petrowski, our Student Outcomes Coordinator. We are here tonight to brief the board on activities really associated with the implementation of the strategic plan. As a reminder, this is a high-level chart showing the phases of the strategic plan planning process that we used last year. We went through 3 iterations of the plan and incorporated feedback from many of the members of our community along the way. Now we have come to the most critical part of the plan, implementation, setting goals, monitoring these goals, and communicating the systematic changes that will take place under this new plan. This slide shows the district's 4 major goals in the strategic plan: college, career, and life-ready graduates, safe, emotionally healthy, and engaged students, family and community empowerment, and operational excellence. As we have stated, these goals will also guide our LCAP and single plans for student achievement work throughout this year. The new strategic plan also identifies 4 core values: equity, achievement, integrity, and accountability. So in June, the board approved this strategic plan. We want you to know that staff has been working at implementation. Tonight, we will inform the board with a summary of activity, a timeline for implementation, and an overview of the communication plan. We will present a report on baseline key performance indicators relative to the strategic plan. And we have also made available a 2016-17 assessment calendar, and we'll discuss how the district assessments support the performance leadership system. Kathy will now provide the board with a report on the work done to date.
Good evening, President Pritchett, board members, and Superintendent Bonda. I'm Kathy Morrison, the LCAP coordinator, and I am also part of the team that has been working on the strategic plan. After the strategic plan was adopted on June 28th, we put together an internal implementation planner to direct our work over the summer. The document that we worked on included 14 key deliverables with designated producers and core team members. Over the summer, various tasks were completed. One example is the letter from the superintendent that was shared with families on the first day of school and included in the Parents' Rights brochure. We also established our annual rhythm, which is our routine for monitoring the plan and for sharing our progress with the board and community. The superintendent's executive cabinet, working as a team, will define the behavioral commitments made in the plan and the intended results so that no area or service is overlooked. The cabinet will define community, Board of Education, and business partner engagement, alignment to the budget, the LCAP, and SIPSAs, and any major organizational changes. The document shown here was created during our summer implementation planning sessions to address how strategic plan work would be distributed. We outlined the strategic plan's actions and services in a shared document for cabinet members to consider and self-nominate whether they lead the implementation of a service or are involved on a secondary level. Completing this document is the first step toward accountability. The next step is for the identified leads to establish goals that will lead to desired outcomes at the end of 5 years. Next, these leads, along with their staff, will create action steps that will lead to each outcome. Some outcomes will be achieved in less than 5 years, and others may take the entire 5. With the action steps, teams will also establish performance indicators. We expect that this deliberate, thoughtful process will result in an actionable and transparent plan. We also expect that the action steps will inform the development of our LCAP. And as our process, we are committed to ongoing collaboration with community stakeholders such as our families, our employees, community partners, and our established committees. A top priority in the implementation of the strategic plan is communicating what is contained in the strategic plan and really what will change as a result of this strategic plan. We are working in close collaboration with the Communications Office on this part of the project. We are rolling out the communication in phases, and we are being thoughtful about the timing. Phase 1 is simply to raise general awareness of the plan and to begin to introduce branding and collateral material. Printed materials that will support this general awareness include a trifold brochure, a poster, and then a full brochure with detailed information. I believe that board members have been provided with a mock-up copy of the first piece of collateral. Please note, it is a mock-up, that's it. The cover photo is just a placeholder right now, but we wanted you to see the beginning of the branding and suggested imagery. Obviously, all of our materials will be translated into the languages of our families, and I want to share that we are very fortunate that we have been able to use in-house design for these products. And really, more important than printed material or a poster is that our stakeholders know what is in the plan. So the second phase of communication will focus on clarifying what is different for our community. So specifically, what will change as a result of the plan. For example, we must define what operational excellence means for our district, and we must communicate the steps that the superintendent believes will lead us to that goal. We will also begin to provide biannual reporting on all of the important metrics defining implementation of the 4 drivers in the strategic plan. Now we will hear from Sarah to explain more about the metrics.
Good evening, Vice President Hansen, board members, and Superintendent Bonda. I am Sarah Petrowski, Student Outcomes Coordinator. During the adoption phase of the strategic plan, we presented proposed key performance indicators, or KPIs, that would serve as checkpoints on our work implementing the new strategic plan. Here you see the finalized list of KPIs and the district-level baseline report from the 15-16 school year where possible. Some of the KPIs are combinations of multiple data points. 8th grade on track to graduate looks at 4 indicators that predict student success in reaching high school graduation. To be considered on track, the following requirements must be met: no suspensions, a GPA of 2.5 or greater, a 96% or higher attendance rate, and no D's or F's in math and English courses. Once a technical issue has been addressed, we will analyze the data to see what percentage of our 8th graders meet these requirements. Increased positive school climate data comes from 2 domains, connectedness and safety, of the Social Emotional Learning and Culture Climate Survey, administered in the spring of 2016. The School Quality Improvement Index is part of the district's enhanced ability to report on student growth and will be available later this fall. Moving forward, each KPI will be represented on the district's data dashboard, where it will be disaggregated by school, ethnicity, and subgroup as a key way of monitoring our progress towards reaching the goals outlined in the new strategic plan. Dr. Rogers will now continue the presentation with information on the district's system of assessments.
We're going to use multiple sources of data to inform the strategic plan implementation. A lot of that data will be from assessments, including daily student work, classroom quizzes, student projects, exams, student performances, benchmarks, and of course, the statewide assessment known as CASP. KPIs, assessment data, and other information about how students and teachers approach daily teaching and learning will inform our efforts at continuous improvement. Our community believes that every student can learn and will improve as their needs are met. It's the adult's privilege and opportunity to understand how to best meet those needs using the tools we've described. This is the heart of the strategic plan's implementation. Here's what you can anticipate next. We'll finalize the implementation plan. We'll clarify the 5-year goals with action steps and performance indicators that will help us all track the progress we're making. Staff will raise awareness of the strategic plan with our families and communities. And we'll launch the data dashboard to create a culture of transparency and continuous improvement. Finally, in a matter of weeks, we'll share the 5-year implementation plan with board and stakeholders. Questions or comments?
Any public comment?
We have 2 public comments on this item from Darlene Anderson and Nikki Milewski.
Things have really changed, Darlene Anderson, things have really changed here in this district in regards to the strategic planning, the LCAP planning, because there's just no team of people where you can just pick a meeting and go to it to figure out what's going on. When the presentation comes to the public like this, I'm looking at the trees, I told you, or the flowers, and I don't know what that means. But when I'm at the school site, when I have access to, participating at the school site, single plan student achievement, you can see some of that data. You can kind of understand what's going on because the conversation happens around that. But I would like to know how many kids in each grade level are meeting grade level student achievement according to the state of California. And when you get to the 3rd grade, I would like to know exactly how many kids in 3rd grade are not at grade level and how are you moving those kids forward. By the time the 8th grade happens, if the kids are not at grade level, then the big ideals, or the concepts about big ideals and the supplemental educational materials really don't work towards getting kids at grade level. And so when I look at the number of kids who are in the secondary who are receiving more than 1 or 3 Fs, it could be 6 Fs or it could be 5 Fs. But for the whole year to get 5 Fs, I mean, in the 9th grade, that's like credit recovery. But when we know what credit recovery looks like, what are we doing? Because I do know that alternative ed is a possibility. And so this strategic plan really, unless there's a place in the district where I can go get more information or download it, to read it, to understand, to comprehend, then it just excludes community from the LCAP process or the planning process. And so even though the staff may be working on it, the public and the community don't have access to it, and it concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Nikki Milewski, Sacramento City Teachers Association. I wanted to thank Al and his staff for this nice graphic on all the assessments that we do. Well, they're not all of them. These don't include the formative assessments that teachers do and the many end-of-chapter assessments and things that we do in our classrooms. But it does show you the section of state mandated and then the whole rest of the page of stuff that's district required. And it can help you think how much time is spent in a student's year in our classrooms on these tests. Think about preparing for the tests, taking the tests, making up the tests, how much the technology carts are monopolized for these tests to be taken and practice tests to be taken. That's a significant impact on our classrooms, and it doesn't have to be this way. With the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, With ESSA, we have the opportunity to reduce testing. In fact, not only does it take steps to reduce the amount of standardized testing, but it also decouples testing from the high-stakes decision-making. That was a major improvement over No Child Left Behind. This is a great opportunity for Sac City to eliminate these tests because states are also offering an opportunity for us to get audits to help us streamline our tests, help us eliminate unnecessary and duplicative tests. It helps school districts know that they need to inform parents that they have the right to opt their student out of these tests and that they cannot be held at high stakes for these students. And it allows states to set a cap on how much time can be spent on testing. So this is a great opportunity for Sac City to eliminate testing time or lower testing time, significantly lower the amount of money we spend on these tests, allow there to be more time for teaching in our classrooms, and allow there to be more joy in learning. So I would like you to join me in my quest to lower the amount of assessments that we do in Sac City. This will not be the last time you hear from me on this topic or other educators. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Oh, any board comment? Vice President Hansen.
Thank you very much. Well, since Nikki just brought the testing piece to, why don't we talk about that first? Can you tell me a little bit about this information? And I'm very sympathetic to the idea that we could lower the amount of time spent on testing, and who knows how much money. I assume it probably costs lots of money to do all the tests. Obviously, the cost of time. Maybe you can just go through a little bit of this with me.
Absolutely. Would it be helpful to put it on the document camera as well? And can you turn that on?
I assume we can't get out of state and federal mandated. It's mandated. There's nothing that's happening there, right? That's
correct.
A different place to bring that up. But I would assume then the district assessments and the high school assessments are those testing that we've imposed on ourselves.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and pass. Oh, there it is. I see it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it sure is. Wow.
Where's my
overhead?
I appreciate you calling that out on TV, but okay. Okay, well, that's
good.
Really not gonna be. So on the document, you'll see there's a listing of state and federal mandated assessments. You'll see the district in the middle there. There's the district assessments, and at the lower end there are all of our high school assessments. And so I'll kind of walk through those a little bit. As you said, Member Hansen, that the state and federal mandated assessments are pretty much non-negotiable for us, and you see a range of them there with CELT, which covers K through 12 English.
You don't have to
learners.
tell me about them. I just really want to know if they're mandated. That's fine. We can kind of just.
Okay.
I don't need to know about anymore. But tell me about the district assessments and the high school assessments? Are those testing that we've imposed on ourselves, that we're saying we want that to happen, and then tell me what the rationale is
for
us doing those?
Absolutely. So in the middle section there's an area on district benchmarks. So you'll see district benchmarks 1 and 2 and then 3. And then as you move over to the right, you'll see that those are for core subjects, English language arts and math.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that we're using a computer system as much as we can to help the students get used to the context for the CASP and other kinds of tests that we're doing, right? It also gives us great access to the data. And then you'll see the grade levels that are engaged. So you'll see those are all listed with different dates and so forth on the side.
So if it says 7-11, does that mean 7th? 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade takes that test?
It does. And we are developing those tests using a detailed item bank. And I'm going to go ahead and invite Dr. Taylor to speak a little bit to the content of those tests that we have the students take. Dr. Taylor?
So the benchmark assessments are periodic assessments for students in English language arts and math. And yes, the grade levels indicated for each is in that column. And these are pretty much the only assessment that we do system-wide to assess student progress. This last year was our first year with benchmarks. I don't know if you remember, but the couple of years prior, we had no district-wide assessments, no way of monitoring whether or not students were making progress towards the standards. And so we developed the benchmarks over a summer in collaboration with SCTA to administer them for the first time last school year. So that was our initial year.
I can add, it's important to note, the first two benchmarks are required. The third benchmark is optional. It coincides with other mandated testing, and pretty much only first graders are actually involved with that. Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom end of the page, I just wanted to point out that we have a listing of several high school assessments. Aside from the PSAT for our 10th graders, those tests are primarily optional. And, we use those, of course, as part of the support ready for college.
Yep. I'll just say before we move on to my other comments, I'm very open-minded about learning more about this. Just so it's kind of a shout out to Nikki and your team folks. If there's ways that you think we can streamline some of this and places that teachers feel that maybe we're overkill on some of these things, I'm all ears, and I'd really appreciate learning more. It'd be valuable for me, and then I'd be happy to work on that issue because I hear it from parents, and that's why I'm attuned to it. If it's necessary, I'd like to learn more about why we believe it's necessary. If folks think we can do it in a better way where we're reducing the impact on the classroom and providing more time for teaching and make sure there's as much joy as possible in there, I think that's really important. So I appreciate seeing this and learning more about that. Let me go back to the rest of your presentation. First, just how will, and I know you mentioned parts of it, are going to be multi-year goals. It's going to take, more than a year to do. It'll probably take more than 5 years. So my question is, how are you going to document the things that are happening during the course of this time, the 5 years, so that when none of us are here and whatever, so the information can be shared and referenced over the years so we don't, have to reinvent the wheel for future folks that want to look and see what have we already done and what have we accomplished so we can keep the work going on if it's a long-term project.
Thank you. Great question, and we've got some of the what we think are very workable solutions for that. The first piece is we're developing this phenomenal tool that you've heard previews on, and you'll be getting a lot more information on the data dashboard. The data dashboard will kind of keep track of all of these different sources of data that we've mentioned today, and process them in a place that is available for board members and for community stakeholders, and you'll be able to see that as we proceed. You'll be able to visually track our progress. It's a very impressive set of resources, and I'm really looking forward to shortly being able to present that to you. Additionally, with tools like the data dashboard, we will be in formal presentation and consultation with the board throughout the year. So as we develop the LCAP and as we proceed through the different phases of development for the strategic plan, we'll be right here with you. We'll have data, we'll have student artifacts, and we'll have that conversation with the board to document our progress, but also to get your guidance on ways that we can, for lack of a better term, correct our course as may be needed.
Thank you. And my second point, I thought, I really like seeing the metrics and kind of the baselines of where we're at. I think that's really important going forward. And so I'll look forward to seeing the data dashboard. Sounds very interesting. Have you looked at what the new measures that are going to be, or that have already been put forward by the State Board of Education, and how those might overlay with what we're developing here?
So we have, and we continue to study that. I think that we have some overlap with our dashboard that will pull that information for you, and I think we'll just have to continue to work on aligning that so that you're not overwhelmed with different sort of disparate systems of reporting.
Right. I mean, that kind of goes back to what Nikki was talking about with testing. If we end up having, we've got state required, federally required, then we're own requiring our things, and it can be too much where we can align. That's better, and then be the same with what the State Board of Education is asking for, the new ways for parents to be able to, in the community, to look at our schools. We shouldn't create one system and then we've been imposed another system on us by the state, and we want to make sure we're not wasting, staff time or anyone else's time, and we should have one system,
Yeah, I just want to add, Board Member Hanson, that we've been monitoring that very closely. In fact, we went to the state Board of Education meeting the other day, and where they presented a lot of updates. We've been tracking that. A lot of the things that we're doing, if not almost everything we're doing, is it's going to be aligned. We feel it's going to be aligned. We've also been trying to influence the things that they want to look at, because it has to be more than what we were doing before. And part of that is pushing this growth model to make sure that we give credit where credit is due for the schools that have made progress. They may not be at the top tier yet, but they're moving. So we have been monitoring it very closely. We think that a lot of the things that we have in place or developing are going to align just beautifully with the state model. Just depends on what they finally end up, adopting as their final instrument.
Thank you.
And we anticipate presenting to the board the state's new model in the December board meeting.
And I'm glad to hear you're trying to help influence that. I think we're in a unique position to do that, so that's good to hear. And then my last comment is just a comment. As you know, I've always thought kind of the strategic plans are very difficult to make meaningful, and I think you've done great work on this. So you might be turning me into a believer on how you value these. So thank you for your persistence and a good teamwork on this.
Member Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Hanson, too. I'm still not that great of a believer on this. Every time you come forward, I always wrangle you up a little bit, right?
Just a bit.
So I want to stick with the testing element right now. And so benchmarks 1, 2, and 3, and 3 being optional except for first grade. My children who are not in this district, but they're taking the ACT, and they've been taking it for the last couple of years. So I know that there's a lower grade level of the ACT that's available. And if you guys want to know about it, you could talk to me after. I'll give you the name of the school that they're at. It's just down the street. So, and I found that to be very useful as a parent to look at that ACT, because it was more accurate in terms of where they fell out in the United States of all other children, their age, where they fell out, and where areas they need to have more improvement in. And it gave me as a parent a more logical way of understanding. Oh, okay, so it's just not having my children read for 20 minutes a day. It's also asking them questions about the stuff that they read and how now it reflected into their score on the ACT. In addition to that, I like it as a parent because when they do get to high school and they are taking that ACT, they're familiar with it. And that's something that is actually used, for college readiness. So maybe we can wonder and explore and imagine if the district can use the ACT examination as opposed to a benchmark and get rid of those benchmark 1, 2, and 3 and have an ACT across the board for whatever grade levels you want to invest in. That was my 2 cents on that. As far as the gate identification test, I don't think we're giving it out to enough children. And we had a report in this board not that long ago, and we all heard the results that we have an over-identification of children who are taking the gate examination in certain subgroups. And in certain subgroups, they were not identified to take the gate test, but when they did take it, they scored high enough to be gate identified. So I really don't feel like we're having some parity across all subgroups to give that gate exam out. So if there's a compromise to be made, you look at the ACT, remove the benchmarks, and then increase on your gate examination and identification. Because after all, I do hear across from many of the comments that came, we want to be a destination district. Well, how do we get there if we're not providing the right measuring stick, right? So if the ACT is what we use for college readiness for our high schoolers, why aren't we doing it sooner, right? The one correction I would make is international baccalaureate examinations. Kit Carson will be doing those. They're not mentioned in there. They will be doing those. And then I have a question about 2. Sixth grade math placement and then math 1 end of course. It doesn't say whether they're mandatory or are these optional.
So the MDTP and Dr. Taylor, do you want to speak to those? Okay, all right.
That's actually the next agenda item. If you want,
I'll hold it. You can, yeah.
Okay.
Never mind. Don't waste the time here. Okay, and then on the PFT baseline, is that mandatory? It is.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
It's a physical fitness test.
All right. And that I'm assuming is district, or is that because of a policy? I know we've had some controversy around the policy. So
Statewide.
Is it federal or is it state?
That's a state test, actually.
That's a state, so you should probably move that up then.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so that's my 2 cents on those. Now going to the communication and branding, to your actual presentation, on page 7. I see here, you want to create these really nice things to hand out and stuff like that. And in all honesty, I take these things and I go, oh God, it's busy. What is it trying to tell me? It's not telling me much of anything. And it goes into the garbage. I don't want our material that taxpayers pay for to be looked at like that. So when we do these kinds of things, if we can make them very meaningful, what does it mean? How am I supposed to be incited, inspired, and motivated to look at this and go, oh, this means my kid. This means my family. Where am I going and what's the roadmap? There was something that I got from USC, and it had, I think, as early as 7th or 8th grade, what classes my child needs to take every single grade from that point forward, so that I knew that my child was on that career or in that pathway to get to that particular college. Now, every college would be different, right? But we should have something like that. Like, what classes should your child be taking? What should they be learning in 1st grade? What should they be learning in 2nd grade? And align it to your strategic plan. Now it's meaningful for the parent. Now the parent goes, this is useful. I'm going to put it up on my refrigerator, and now my 1st grader is going to be here, and next year we're going to go here, and they should be reading this many words a minute. And it's a quick and easy something that parents understand. Here's where we're going. Okay, yes. So, and that's how you get people involved and excited to be part of the strategic plan.
Thank you.
Right.
Member Royal.
Thank you, President Pritchett. Just a quick comment on, and I'll use this assessment issue just as an example because there are so many things that comprise what education is, and there's a knee-jerk reaction to basically say, oh, it's just too much, and I get it. I'm not justifying that we need to have as many assessments, but just about everything we have there was a justification of why it got there to begin with. Regardless if at this point it's the best thing or it's the worst thing, I think that that's what I think this refined version of the strategic plan should help us get to, right? To basically assess what is it that we have in every aspect. Because in this instance, it's the assessments that we have right in front of us, and we're assessing or discussing if we should have this many or not. Frankly, I mean, when we're talking about, for example, at the school site level, the focus on the AP testing, I know that the high school in my trustee area, it's a huge of tremendous value of why they want students not only to take AP classes, but also to take the AP test. Because when the students take the AP class and then take the AP test, it does multiple things. AP testing is kind of like the general standard across the nation, and it allows universities across the country to determine the quality of the student. And so that means scholarships, that means free ride opportunities for our students. And it also means that if they have depending on the score that they get on that AP 1 through 5, that school may give them credit for that class, and that means less time that the students are spending at that college, that university, less money enrolled, so on and so forth. So there's a trickle effect. And so that's just that one example, but I really don't know. I'm not a teacher, obviously, deficient on that end, but there's a natural predisposition to say we need to trim them down, but I think that those decisions need to happen with everyone involved. Those folks in the classroom, the teacher saying, we need them, we don't need them. The principals, the students. There's a broader conversation that will have to happen in conversations, not just on the assessment but other services, other items that many times we do because that's what quote unquote we've done for so long, and that's not a justification to continue to do. But I will just try to encourage everyone to stop what I would call a single factor rationalizing. I mean, it's just focus on that one item. It's just too many, but there's more to the story. And if we start kind of breaking the pieces apart, then we can engage these conversations knowing that it may be something we want, something we not, learn the history behind it, and then determine the people that get affected by it and say, do we really need this or not? And I think that if we become more methodical in how we consider all the items that we have in front of us or that you will be presenting on, will help us determine, does that meet where we really want to go according to what we already determined is our strategic plan. So as we start kind of breaking it down. So that is just my general comment. Otherwise, every item that comes before us, we will gauge it by that one factor, and it's going to be a yes, no automatically without considering all the stakeholders and all the reasons why it was there to begin with. Thank you.
Vice President Ryan.
Thank you. So I applaud your efforts. I know this is a tremendous undertaking. I do have a couple comments and considerations. I think that the data dashboard, while a very powerful tool to help inform and improve student-centered practice, is only meaningful when we actually make a connection to the school site work. And so I'm interested in how the data dashboard is going to be outreach to principals, teachers, and those at the school site level, and then how you'll be working with school sites to encourage them to adopt some very clear metrics that are specific to their campus, not punitive, but tools for progress, particularly in closing opportunity gaps for foster youth, for low-income NEL students.
So on the 21st of this month, there will be a meeting with the principals. Superintendent Bonda will be sort of framing this performance leadership work we've referenced in the presentation, and offering to them the use of or the approach using a growth mindset, if you will, as we enter into this. We'll be presenting to the principals after that a detailed sort of process about how do you access this data dashboard and make use of that data, and how do you interpret this stuff. And then we're offering some sample protocols for engaging teachers so that they can, as you described, make sense of this information and translate that into new classroom practice. The whole idea being let's experiment and grow together. Let's be informed by the data, and let's try some things and then check our progress accordingly. We're pretty excited about the culture that is supported by these new tools, and but we're also sort of avoiding this notion of a prescribed or scripted approach throughout the schools. We're trusting the teachers and the principals to develop that work together and to identify professional development needs that will bubble up out of that conversation, which Dr. Taylor and her team will be ready to take on and lead us forward.
So I appreciate that response, and it sounds like a more holistic approach to working at the school site level. Do you have a vision for working with schools that, as you look at a year into the strategic plan, have been shown to make gains, working with them to be models, to be mentors, to help other campuses that might be struggling but have like demographics?
Well, I'm happy to say that Deputy Superintendent Allen and the area assistant superintendents facilitate an ongoing network of principals. They're not, and schools, by the way. They're not exactly organized around feeder patterns, but pretty close. And they have an ongoing set of opportunities to do just that, share best practice, to compare data, and to ask questions in a very sort of user-friendly environment. Now, out of that, there may be needs that show up that can't be met in a sort of user-friendly work group, and so the chiefs are there and ready to respond to whatever those needs might be as well.
Thank you. So just a couple other questions. I appreciate Board Member Hansen's comments on alignment. I think that that's so critical, and I've heard a lot of feedback from our partners at Sac State and also at our local community colleges about making sure we have a more robust partnership between faculty and our high school teachers so that we are reducing remediation rates. And, I would love to see, as part of the assessments, some very explicit language around the ERWC, the Expository Writing and Reading course, and the math equivalent, because we know that those are two powerful tools for reducing the number of students, particularly low-income students of color, that will enter post-secondary and be placed often due to no fault of their own into remedial education. I also want to see and suggest that an indicator for the high school assessment should be the early assessment program. That is for us a powerful lever for ensuring that students who are struggling and falling off track are put back on a path to successfully be ready for post-secondary education. And then just finally, two things. We had Member Arroyo speak to AP, and obviously AP and A through G course offerings so important. Once again, this gets back to what Liz Guillen and others have commented on. We have to position ourselves to take advantage of those college readiness block grant dollars and to advocate for that money to go beyond one-time funding to be ongoing funding, but that should be a piece of the high school assessment. And beyond that, back to what Member Rodriguez mentioned about GATE, I think her comments were very astute. Fortunately, I'm grateful that the district has updated their GATE policy and now I believe is much more attuned to this idea that we need identification that is culturally inclusive, that will really explicitly ensure that students of color have equal opportunity for GATE access and programming moving forward. And I'm hopeful that with the policy changes in that board policy around GATE, next year's data will reflect that. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Member Wu.
Thank you, President Pritchett. Dr. Rogers and your staff, thank you for all your hard work. I mean, this is really, really, you can tell that there's a lot of work that has been put into this effort. But I'd like to discuss with you, going back to slide number 8, I think is the district key performance indicators.
And are we able to change back to the...
I'm just trying to get a sense as to how this will look when it's presented. So I see 2015, 2016, you have some baseline data. Secondary students receiving one or more D's or F's. Is that going to be broken down by each of the secondary grades and then further broken down, or where you're able to determine the number of secondary students receiving one or more D's or F's per school? How is that going to work?
So, we've got a lot of people working on this, both in our office and also in Mr. Lopez's office. But I'm going to invite Sarah to share some of her work on that.
Thank you.
The primary way that you will see all of the different KPIs disaggregated, whether it be by school or by grade level, by ethnicity, is going to be through the data dashboard. Each of those KPIs will have its own dashboard, and there will be multiple filters that you will be able to use when you look at the dashboard that will be able to show you the results for that KPI by whatever grade, school, ethnicity is of interest to you.
So I guess from since I'm kind of a visual type person, and I'm trying to extract all this and get a sense as to what the dashboard's going to look like and how to play with it. If we can have a demonstration as one of the presentations.
We will. We are planning on coming to present the data dashboard to you on October 6th.
Okay. And then moving on to each of the key performance indicators, I kind of have a little question. So you have number 2, 8th grade on track to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And are you using that as a future predictor of graduation? So, for example, those in 8th grade today, 4 years from now, when they should be graduating, you're going to compare the numbers of how they aligned and just hope that maybe we have improved the graduation over the predicted graduation. Or how is that going? Is just that going to be a static number? I'm again trying to get a sense of how these indicators are going to be used.
I think the way that research suggests using it is that you use it to look at the kids who are not currently on track in 8th grade and see what supports they might need as they move into 8th grade and throughout their college or throughout their high school career, to make sure that by the time they are getting to 12th grade that they are then on track to graduate.
Yeah, so we have the 8th graders today,
mm-hmm.
and as aggregate for the district, we see that maybe we have 85% of the 8th graders on track to graduate. Then we follow them along through successive years. Each individual student we follow along through successive years, so we can add that remedial or additional assistance to each student on an individualized level. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I imagine that with respect to kindergarten attendance, it's not unlike 8th grade on track to graduate, except we're starting 8 years sooner, and then we continue to track them through their K through 12 or their tenure within our district, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, I'm just trying to get a sense as to ultimately, now that I see what the KPIs are, how they're going to be used, and I'm going through this exercise, so hopefully those who are listening can get an appreciation and understanding what we at the district are trying to do for their children. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Member Wu. I can appreciate that. I too wanted to thank you all for your hard work. It's definitely shown in the document, the time that you've spent on this. I'm not going to reiterate anything. It's getting too late for that. And I do just want to say that I would like to encourage Dr. Taylor to meet with the members of SCTA or with Ms. Molesky to maybe go over the tests and see what tests can be streamlined. I understand that there's a reason for everything that's on here, but coming from I'm a parent who, when my kids were growing up, They weren't great test takers. They panicked. And when they did awful, everything went, so I agree that, it would be great if we could allow teachers to teach the way that the best that they can and not always be by these benchmarks. So I encourage you to talk to Ms. Molesky and go over this. Great.
Thank you.
I thought somebody called me from down there. Sorry. All right, good. That's information. Thank you so much. We'll see you back.
Thank you.
11.5, adopt revision of board policy number 6152.1, placement in mathematics course. Dr. Taylor and Matt Turkey.
So good evening, Board President Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, and members of the board. My name is Iris Taylor, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer. And tonight I'm joined by Matt Turkey, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. And we are here tonight to present a new board policy, 6152.1, instruction, with a focus on placement of students in mathematics courses. In tonight's presentation, we will provide an overview of the policy, including information on its genesis and its intent. We will then outline the major components of the policy. This will be followed by an explanation of the district's secondary math program, namely the course sequence in grades 7 through 12, as well as the protocols for placement in secondary math. We'll then briefly outline major math initiatives for the 2016-17 school year to illustrate the work underway to impact math achievement and students' preparation for more advanced math courses. And then we'll conclude with next steps. Board Policy 6152.1 is in alignment with the goals of our newly adopted strategic plan with its focus on equity and excellence. The policy addresses the 4 goals of the strategic plan in that secondary math course placement is a critical factor in college and career and life readiness, I'll say. Access to rigorous and advanced math courses can foster safe, emotional, healthy, and engaged students. And then including parent recommendations as a component of our placement contributes to family and community empowerment. And finally, by creating standardized processes and practices for placement and for monitoring, including monitoring procedures, that moves us towards our goal of educational or operational excellence. So the genesis of Board Policy 6152 is in Senate Bill 359, which was passed in October of 2015. The Senate bill requires that local educational agencies adopt fair, objective, and transparent methods for placing students in mathematics courses. The intent of the law and the policy is to address the misplacement of students in mathematics courses, and specifically issues of disproportionality in such placements. This is important because mathematics misplacement in earlier grades impacts a student's ability to take more advanced math courses, particularly those needed for entry into colleges, as well as for students to be successful in science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM majors. The need to address issues of misplacement is underscored in research that indicates that there's a greater disparity in the number of students of color, namely African American and Latino students, who reach calculus by grade 12 when compared to their white and Asian peers. SCUSD has drafted a board policy to provide guidance on determining mathematics placement utilizing language from the California School Board Association, and it includes the following components. It outlines a consistent protocol for determining math course placement and includes multiple measures for doing so. It also includes the expectation that placement can be checked or reassessed within the first month of school to ensure proper placement. And the policy also delineates the training of staff in the annual review of placement data by the board and superintendent. This graphic illustrates the secondary math sequence, course sequence, and options for math placement. So the top row outlines a traditional course sequence from Math 7 through AP Calculus. Actually, I should say the second row. The bottom row, however, shows the opportunities for acceleration within the sequence, namely at grades 7 and 8, where compacting is utilized. Now, compacting is compressing 3 years of math course content into 2 years. Students at that level have the option of a compacted Math 7-8 course and a compacted 8 Math 1 course. Math 1 is also offered at the middle school level, and at one site we offer Math 2 at the middle school level. At the high school level, we have the plus courses, Math 2 Plus and Math 3 Plus, which include the pre-calculus standards in addition to Math 2 and 3 standards. Students who are successful in these 2 courses can bypass pre-calculus and enter into an AP Calculus AB course. The arrows on the diagram show the on-ramp and off-ramp points for moving into those accelerated courses. The policy also includes specific criteria for determining math placement after grade 6 and the completion of Math 1. These include consideration of student performance in previous grades by analyzing report card grades or evaluation of transcripts, student performance on math placement assessments. The math at grade 6, we use the Mathematics Diagnostic Testing Project out of UC Davis, as well as some open-ended items. And then after Math 1, we utilize the district-developed integrated Math 1 end-of-course exam. We also include recommendations by students, teachers, and parents. At this point, Matt will now share with you some of the major math initiatives underway for the 2016-17 school year. And although the initiatives are not the focus of this presentation, the board policy is, we thought it would also be a good opportunity to outline for you some of our mathematics work being engaged in to increase academic achievement in math.
Good evening, Board President Pritchett and members of the board. So before diving into our math initiatives, I'd like to start with our instructional vision. As a community of learners, we strive to create positive and engaging environments where a rigorous student-centered curriculum is central. Teachers use inquiry-based instruction and formative assessment practices to support all learners in maturing socially and becoming disciplinary thinkers. Now, to our math initiatives for the year. As you are aware of, we have started a math campaign focused on developing a growth mindset around learning math. To illustrate why this is important, we're going to watch a brief video from the national movement With Math, I Can. If you click on the With Math I Can, and then watch video. Pretty good.
How do you feel about math?
I'm not good at math.
I just don't get it.
It makes me kind of feel uncomfortable. When I get called on in math class, I feel scared. Because I'm afraid I'm going to mess up the problem.
My brain just doesn't think anymore. It doesn't think straight, and I just go like, okay, what do? I have no idea what to do. Math makes me feel stupid.
Scared that I would answer wrong or get laughed at.
I'll never be able to do this. Scene 16, take 1, marker.
I'm still learning who I am, but I'm good at forming my idea of my own potential. And if I think I can't be good at math, I won't be. But math is everywhere. Math is a basic life skill. Without math, I could get left behind. So help me know that limits don't exist.
That math isn't beyond my reach.
That my potential can take me anywhere. That with hard work and the right mindset, I can grow. Because math esteem is self-esteem. With math, I can be a fashion designer, a doctor, a computer programmer. a wildlife biologist.
A teacher.
With math, I can be anything. So click the link,
take the pledge, and find out how you can implement
growth mindset strategies
to improve your students' math esteem.
So I can have a fighting chance
to become who I want to be.
To help develop a mathematical mindset, we're encouraging our students, our parents, school staff, and community members to take the pledge from With Math I Can. The pledge has 3 different parts to it: to celebrate our mistakes as opportunities to learn and to grow, to be confident and to share our thinking, and to persevere through difficult practice. And I encourage everybody here and the board members here, please at some point, take the pledge. Okay, to build our math capacity, we're engaging our teachers, parents, and partners in professional learning. Building a growth mindset around math is interwoven into all of the professional learning that we are doing. So first of all, the Summer Math Institute. During the Summer Math Institute, teachers went through rapid prototyping, integrating technology into their math classrooms. Math Mondays are opportunities for teachers to build their content knowledge. Modified lesson study cycles go on in schools across the district throughout the school year, during which teachers improve their craft. In line with our instructional vision, our monthly principal meetings are focused on high-quality tasks, texts, and questions, and academic discourse. We have workshops for instructional aides. We collaborate with the FACE office to create and host parent workshops. To improve the math tutoring services that our students engage in, we're providing professional learning based on developing mathematical mindsets in our students to our extended day providers at school sites and to volunteer services at Sacramento Public Libraries. We have an infrastructure in place to support our schools and our students. We have 9 training specialists, math training specialists, working across the district to coach our teachers and to support our schools. We have curriculum maps in place for all grade levels up through Math 3 at high school. We are supporting our schools to use data in a formative fashion so that when we are assessing students in the moment, at the end of a lesson, within a unit, we're using the assessments for learning. We've developed benchmark assessments in grades 1 all the way up through Math 3. Our schools and our teachers have access to Illuminate, an assessment system within which teachers can create their own assessments. We've helped schools to create math support classes for struggling students during the school day and after school. While we recognize that this is a very brief description of our math initiatives, we will share a more in-depth presentation with the board in the near future. For our next steps for Board Policy 6152.1, we are going to present a second reading to the board, and once approved, to draft administrative regulations for the policy to provide further guidance on policy implementation. Thank you.
Any public comment?
We do have one comment on this item from Darlene Anderson.
I think Darlene Anderson talked to the superintendent about implementing something around math. But I would be concerned as to the number of students who are RSP, the number of students who are in SDC class, and how we plan on being inclusive of those children. Just because they have disabilities doesn't mean that they can't learn. Some are very, very bright, very, very smart, and very intelligent, but they do have different ways of learning. And so I would like to see this implemented district-wide so we would know exactly where our children are. I'm concerned that we don't know where all kids are. We should have a baseline so that we know where all kids are in the 3rd grade in one subject. And if the subject is math, so be it. And then we can move kids forward from that. But we can't continue to do what we do, meaning that I do know of many, many children in this district who are in the 8th grade who are below grade level and who may be at 1st and 2nd grade level, and their parents can't help them. And because we have accepted this what do you call this, alternative ed and moving kids into accelerated graduation, these kids are still on the street and they're still not employable. And so I would like to see us have a baseline in, I thank the superintendent for choosing math because math is it connects to everything in life. And perhaps we can work with our teachers union so that we can be inclusive of students in the disproportionately based SDC classes and ensuring that they have a baseline also, but really moving kids forward from today, not yesteryear, but actually today, moving them forward to monitor and determine progress of all children in Sac City Unified School District. And thank you and good night.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez?
What? I can't be the only one.
You get to follow that.
Okay. Okay, so I saw the part about the test. So you're giving the test. I didn't quite understand it, and maybe it's because I was watching it from back there, but I didn't quite understand. You're giving that as this little portion of the very last paragraph of the policy. Is that what it's supposed to be connected to?
So the assessments are at key grade levels. So at the end of 6th grade, transitioning into 7th grade, and then at the end of the Math 1 course to determine placement in Math 2, which pathway. Let me go back to.
But Math 1 technically could be then taken when they're in 7th grade?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We do have some sites, actually all of our middle schools offer a Math 1 course. So this graphic kind of shows the decision points for 6th grade and for after Math 1. And so and the Senate bill was around issues of misplacement, and so ensuring that there's fair and objective criteria that's being used to determine math placement.
I still think it's misplaced.
You think
the evaluation? Well, because if you just think about it for a minute with me, in Area 5, we don't really have very high quality type of rigor environment that happens at a lot of my schools out there. And if we are to test grade levels, at 5th, 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade, and they don't have the teaching that kind of coincides with that, they're going to score lower. Some kids will score higher and some kids will move on to the higher level math. But what happens to those ones that could have had the potential had they had the right environment, the right high quality teacher in the classroom? That's just kind of what I see. I have to be honest. In order for us to change things, we have to be honest, right?
Yeah, so I think, the issue that you are raising is the issue that the policy in the Senate bill is trying to address. That when we look at data on course-taking patterns of kids, you see a huge disproportionality in who actually takes calculus in 12th grade, right? And there's great disparity between students of color and their white and Asian peers. Some of that, there's been research in terms of just how kids are placed and students being misplaced. Maybe they were fine in 8th grade, but they're not being placed into that more advanced math course that would put them on a trajectory to go into an AP calculus course.
So let's just stop there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Latina.
I'm sorry.
I am Latina.
Mm-hmm.
I was here in this district as a student. Okay? I have a degree in finance, which is math. I had to know math really well. Do you think that I was taking calculus here in this district at Luther Burbank?
I don't know. It seems like from your
wasn't.
expression that
I
you were
wasn't.
not.
I wasn't. And do you think that I was able to score high enough on an exam to get into that higher level math? Well, at Luther Burbank, I didn't. I was in a math course where I was taking algebra, scored really good in algebra while I was doing homework. I could gather the concept of it, but when I took an examination, I didn't pass. So it goes back to the quality of a teacher. It goes back to how comfortable the student is when they're taking an examination, what kind of family environment they come from. You know, I had to later on learn all of these things, which then when I was in college, I got myself to that level. Not that I certainly, because I have demonstrated that I can do it, right? I actually have a degree in it. It's not that. I think there's a whole bunch of other factors that are involved besides giving an examination at 6th grade and at 7th grade.
Right. So I think what you're speaking to, we're not saying that the examination is the sole determinant of whether or not a student is placed in the math courses, in advanced math courses. Of course, the instruction has a lot to do whether or not students are ready, right, or prepared. There's also, you know, what the policy in the Senate bill is trying to get at is, and what we were trying to do in the criteria and valuing like student recommendations, right? So if a student doesn't place well on an assessment, but they think that they can do it, or a teacher thinks that they can do it, then that recommendation process becomes critical, because the recommendation is not a punitive process. It can only advance the student, right? Even though outside of the assessment, we recognize that the teaching and learning and what happens on a daily basis with kids is critical, which is why we didn't want to just use this presentation to talk about the policy. We wanted to share with you just some of the initiatives and the work that's going on around math, and to introduce the math campaign, which is about like, what is our mindset and how do we support students in gaining a growth mindset about mathematics. It's not something that's just innate, either I have it or I don't have it, but that I can learn and grow in my math ability. And so yes, this is about the policy, but it's also, and you know, what we want to do is bring back a longer presentation just around the math work and what we're doing to support teachers, to support leaders, so that they can support students to develop a growth mindset. So I hope I'm not sending the message that you know, this policy is like the end all to be all, and it's going to.
That's how I took it,
okay.
Because it's a big concern to me about math misplacement. There's Latinos and African Americans. We're both in that group.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that we both have excelled at education in our own right. And you know that at 7th and 8th grade, nobody really identified us to be that person to get a PhD or to get a bachelor's degree, right?
So I think
that's the honest truth.
It's, I have to say, I won't tell my story, but you know, there were people who believed in me, who pushed me. I was that kid who was in the GATE class, who was, you know, pushed, you know, who was pushed along. But then when I look back at my peers, that was not always the case, right? And I think this policy in this Senate bill is designed to address that very issue. I mean, at the crux of it, when you read the language around it, it was startling to the writers of it about that disproportionality and some of the subjectivity around how kids are being placed. And so it's to, one, have multiple measures so that you're not using a single criteria to determine placement, but that there is something that's objective in there so that kids who have demonstrated an ability can. And I think, you know, what you'll see in the sequence that's up here is that the course sequence is designed so that there's opportunities. Like, if you don't go into that compacted math course in 7th grade, that's not the end of the world for you. Like, there's another opportunity at the high school level to also go into an accelerated pathway. And that's the reason for that. I do want to say that I think there's this may sound like a contradiction, because we recognize that getting into those advanced math courses are critical for students in terms of college entry, in terms of admittance into STEM fields, right? Our conversation with principals and with teachers has been around, there's a danger too in accelerating kids too fast, right? Where we push them through, and then they find that when they get into those more advanced math classes, they don't have the foundational understanding, the conceptual understanding of the mathematics to really be able to do advanced mathematics. So there's a balancing that we have to do here, that we're not trying to push kids through just so that they get that AP calculus on their transcript, but really being mindful, do they understand, deeply understand, conceptually understand mathematics to be successful in those careers?
And only the student will be able to tell you. I mean, really. I mean, because a test can tell you that they score here, and the teacher can tell you that they're ready, but inside, I think, makes a difference, and we just saw it with the kids on the video. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I'm sorry I'm so passionate about this subject. I'm probably the only one up
I tell
here.
people all the time, I'm a recovering math phobe, so this is really important to me as well.
So, the other thing that I have that I wanted to ask you about is that this test, I think it's the 6th grade test, was from UC Davis. Is that the one? I saw one from UC Davis. It was exciting and great and awesome. It was computer based, and then it took the child into like a programming model where they learn C++ programming at the same time. Is that the one that you're talking about? It's a different one.
Not,
Oh,
no.
okay.
It's more of a standardized, primarily multiple choice assessment. It's like a readiness assessment. UC Davis has developed these assessments over time and recently aligned this one to Common Core.
Okay. Because I really did. I liked the one that I saw from UC Davis, and because it really put math into action. So they were solving a quadratic equation, and then it was plotting it like right instantly on the next form, or they were solving a word problem, and then on the next sheet over, it showed the reality of how the cashier did,
Sounds like
the change.
C-STEM. Yeah.
What is
sounds
it?
Like, it's what does
C-STEM? Is that what you're
stand
calling
for?
it?
The integration of computing into STEM.
Yes.
And so it's called C-STEM, and there's a C-STEM center at UC Davis.
It's amazing.
And so they have things from kind of 6th grade through into high school, where you basically you use programming either for robotics or for kind of problem solving, like you're describing.
Yeah, I really liked it, and for a kid who doesn't really like math because they don't see the connectivity to the real world, I think that really helps, especially for the children who are struggling along.
I would say that there's actually lots of our schools which are engaged with that.
Yes, I know Burbank is one of them. SCS was another one. Maybe New Tech.
Not sure about New Tech, but several of our middle schools as well.
Okay. So those were my questions, and I'm sorry to the board I get all geeked out about this, but thank you for indulging me.
Vice President Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, for taking on this work. So, I do want to acknowledge that, one, you're responding to a state mandate. So this is state legislative mandate. But I think it is important to recognize that, unfortunately, the reality of disproportionality is that we have an unfortunate number of Black and brown students who are being held back, in particular in the area of math. And what this is trying to address, as I think you so beautifully articulated, is this idea that high-stakes testing alone cannot be the primary driver of math placement for students, particularly students of color across the state. So I love the fact that we're looking at integrating a more holistic approach, really looking at multiple measures, and frankly, allowing for teacher recommendation and student recommendation to play a role in placement. There's a lot of data at a state and national level that shows that when we put students several levels below where they should be in terms of grade level for math, that their self-esteem plummets and their ability to climb out of that, place where they have fallen behind is significantly impacted, and that continues on to post-secondary if they end up moving on to post-secondary. And yet when those same students have an opportunity to be put into a more challenging course with the appropriate supports, quite often they succeed, and not only succeed, but then continue on a math pathway that they might not have entertained otherwise. So thank you for taking on this work. I'm looking forward to continuing to talk about how this is implemented at a school site level, but appreciate that this will create more equitable results for math achievement in students across the district.
Member Cochran?
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. This is such important information and work that you're doing, and I'm so glad that you're moving us forward really into the 21st century. It really needs to be done. I have a question, and it's a little off-center of testing and so forth, but in our high schools, do we have block schedules, and do we have math on alternate days? And if so, I highly object.
You highly object?
Object, yes.
Well, we don't have block scheduling in our high schools currently. It's, I would say, a conversation that we are interested in having because for a number of reasons. One, in some of what we struggle with is we have students who are struggling with mathematics, right? But the master's schedule is so impacted that there's no place for them to really get support without, say, losing an elective class or something like that. And so what we see is that what we're looking at is, might a block schedule open up some room? Recognizing, too, that, you don't put kids in a 2-hour period after having been in a 1-hour period and just think the magic's going to happen. Like there's a lot of capacity building, professional learning, of just teaching within an extended block that needs to happen in order for that model to be successful. So I would say, initial conversations around looking at block scheduling.
I'm glad we don't have it. I'm glad I asked the question. Will you keep the board apprised of initial and further conversations? Having taught and worked in block scheduling in a field that requires daily instruction, it can be disastrous unless someone really knows how to use that 93 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vice President Hansen.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the meeting to 10:30 since we were supposed to adjourn at 9:15. Well, it's clearly we didn't do that, so I'd say 10:30.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Aye. What are you mumbling down there?
I said absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. Seeing no more board comment, this is a conference first reading, so we'll be looking forward to bringing this back. Thank you so much. Item 11.6, approve the 2015-16 year-end fiscal financial report and audited actuals, transfers, budget revisions. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, President Pritchett, Superintendent Banda, and members of the board. Before I start the presentation, I want to publicly give thanks to Amari Watkins and Mr. Michael Smith and their staff for completing and finishing the 2015-16 unaudited actuals. It's a lot of work to close a $600 million budget, and I'm very proud of them and want to give them thank you. Oh, it takes a little time. Okay. Our focus tonight will be part of the strategic plan in family and community empowerment by giving the knowledge and also in operation excellence. We will go over the general fund summary. With that, we will cover where our revenues come from and our expenditures. We will review our fund balance in detail. We will go into detail one of our major expenditures, that is our health benefit costs. We will discuss our district liabilities. You will see this in every statement. We will discuss this today in more detail. We will also touch the other funds on our closing tasks. Where does revenue come from? You will see that 90% of our revenue comes from the state. Local control funding formula, 69%, plus the other state revenues, 21%, that equals 90%. The other state revenue include revenues such as special ed, some lottery, and also emergency repair that you heard earlier tonight. The federal revenue includes funds as Title I, Title II, and the local revenue includes items such as donations, leases, and some small local grants. How we spend our funds? 90% of our expenditures we spend in salaries and benefits. That's 45% plus 32% in benefits, and then the classified salary that makes 90%. So we are a people business. We are really, that's how we spend the majority of our funds. In the operational expenses, about $9 million of that is part of utilities. How our restricted funds? We spend about not as much as our unrestricted. Still, 61% is spent on salaries and benefits. In the operational expenses there, the $40 million, out of that, about $25 million is spent in special ed programs. So we talked about benefits in previous two slides, and then right now we're going to focus more in deeper how we spend in benefits. Out of the total general fund, 18% is spent on health benefits. That is a significant amount. If we dig even deeper, we will notice that our total employee cost, 22% is employee benefits, and 15% in statutory benefits. So another way to look at this pie chart is for every dollar that we pay in total compensation employee, 63 cents for every dollar, 63 cents is in salaries, 22% is in health benefits, and 15% is in statutory benefits. So how function is the activities to achieve a goal. So the goal is learning, instruction is the activity. So 61% in direct instruction or budget is spent on direct instruction. And instructional related services includes office managers, school principals. So you could bind those two items, 74% is in direct instruction. We spend that. Pupil services include items such as counselors, nurses, transportations. General administration includes the board and the majority of the staff who works here on the Cerna Center. Plant services is as facilities operations. So our general RAM, we have a total revenues of $550 million. That's how we finished the year. Our total expenditures is $475 million. So no all revenue is equal. We have some revenue that is called is ongoing revenue that is used for ongoing salaries. We receive in 2015-16 $31.3 million in ongoing revenue. But please notice that's past. With a current year, that dropped to $17 million, and then for 17-18 is $7 million. So right now, we are, for 16-17, we are just getting enough to cover our increases in cost. Our one-time revenues in 2015-16, I want to remind the board, the governor paid the majority of the wallet debt. He paid the wallet debt. So we received about $7 million in one-time funds. One-time funds means that we can only use it for one-time purposes. We receive it once, and that's it. Again, please notice our current year, that was the amount went from 77 million to 11 million, and then 17-18 is 4.5. The governor pretty much finished paying the wallet debt, so we will not expect those one-time revenues ongoing as we received this past year. So what does this mean is that where we are now, yes, the last couple of years, our revenues were higher than our costs, but in our current year, the red line, our expenditures, are already going higher than our total revenues. And you will notice that we keep going, we call it the alligator gap. because it really will eat you if you don't pay attention to it. That's 79. Yeah. So another way to look at this previous slide is our expenditures. Okay, our expenditures per ADA. The other one was based on total. This is per ADA. You will notice in 16, 17 per ADA, the green bars, and then the multicolor bars, the cost of the multicolor bars is greater already than our revenue. So we really need to pay attention. In the following year, the governor has paid 95% of the LCFF. So this is a significant cost that we need to pay attention. So our one-time balance, our ending fund balance, Mr. Michael Smith will take it from here, and he will discuss the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Gerardo. Good evening, President Pritchett, Superintendent Bonda, and board members. So after closing our books last fiscal year, the district's general fund ending balance was $75.7 million. Fund balance is not ongoing. Once you use it, it's gone. It's like using a savings account to buy a car. So as Gerardo illustrated previously, the increasing costs will outpace the ongoing revenues. So in other words, more money will be going out than coming in. So much of the fund balance will be used to help bridge this funding gap. And this slide lists how the fund balance will be utilized. So I'll just touch on a few of them. We're using $11.8 million towards increasing employee costs, which is health benefits and retirement. Also using $21.6 million to prepare for the funding gap. And remember, these are one-time funds, so it's only a temporary solution. $7.7 million is restricted for certain uses. An example of that is our educator effectiveness funds. We have a district-approved plan, and it must be used for professional learning. We're also using $4 million for technology at the schools, which would include computers. The fund balance of over $75 million, or 15% of our total general fund expenditures, may sound like a lot, but actually it's less than 2 months of operating expenditures for the district. So prior to our one-time funds that we have been receiving over the last couple of years, it was a struggle to maintain even the minimum 2% required reservation, which doesn't even cover 1 month of payroll for the district. The statewide average for unified school districts back in 2014-15 was just over 13%. The district was under that by about 2% back in 14-15. So we expect the 2015-16 statewide average when it comes out to be quite a bit higher due to the one-time state funds. So why is the fund balance over $75 million? Well, the main reason is the large increase in one-time funds, which Gerardo mentioned was $77 million last year in one-time funds. Another reason is we had a one-time savings in medical costs last year. After changes to the health plans a couple years ago, the rates increased less than anticipated. But unfortunately, this was a temporary savings, as you will see on the next slides. So the ongoing cost of health care is an issue that must be addressed. This graph shows medical rates increasing for the district almost 80% over 10 years. So 7.74% is the average increase for medical benefits for the district over the last 10 years, which is significantly higher than California's average of 4.5%. So we know that rates this year are increasing. HealthNet is increasing to over 10%. Kaiser, on average, is around 5.13%. And the other two providers are increasing less than 5%. So we must be prepared for costs that we know are coming. Liabilities or obligations that are paid over the long term. The district has higher liabilities when you compare us to many other districts. So just like a mortgage, payments add additional expenses to the general fund. So we cannot ignore this over $600 million liability for lifetime benefits known as OPEB. We must have a plan to ensure that the district can keep its promise to its employees of today and in the future. So we plan to have a presentation on OPEB at a future board meeting. Now, lease revenue bonds, these are payments for this building here at CERNA and also the Charles A. Jones Career and Education Center. It also is for district-wide projects for roofing and HVAC systems. So we still have 24 years left of payments. So the last payment is in the year 2040. Up until now, we have focused on the general fund, but the district has other significant funds, so I will touch upon a few of those. So the charter schools have their own fund. Nutrition services is in the cafeteria fund. You can see they spent over $25 million last year to serve meals to our students. Preschool programs are in child development, and the building fund includes our bond funds. You can see over $29 million was spent on acquisition and construction for district facilities last year. The state revenue relies heavily on the top 1% earners. This leads to great volatility. And since 90% of our funding comes from the state, our funding goes up and down right along with the state. So California has been in recovery about 6.5 years. So based on past history, we are due for another recession. Adding ongoing expenditures can lead to painful cuts later. This was a lesson learned just 5 to 6 years ago when the district went through major reductions. This is not a place that we want to be. The governor strongly believes in building reserves for California. He calls it the rainy day fund to protect against downturns in the economy. We believe that school districts should be able to follow the state's lead on building reserves. So remember that prudent decisions during the good times makes it easier to get through the bad times. So this concludes our presentation. Mr. Castillo and I are available for questions or comments.
Great, thank you. We have public comment.
We have one public comment on this item from Grace Trujillo.
Grace, you snuck in.
Good evening, members of the board and President Christina Bridget. Actually, I had open house at George Washington Harbor, and then afterwards I had to help my son with math. But I was too busy looking over the stuff on the budget. It's so funny, I've been looking at this budget, and at first it took me forever to figure it out. And now it only took me like maybe 45 minutes and scan through it and say, okay, I do this, this, and that. And it's funny, because that's one of the things I also have to talk to Castillo. Awesome. Let me tell you, looking at it is exactly everything I've always talked about. And I think it makes a huge difference for people to see the projections in the future and constantly reminding ourselves that we have to be prepared. And if we're not, our children are going to be affected. I think Gerardo did an awesome job on reflecting the projections, the healthcare, the impact, what's going on and what's going on in our economy. I think just the fact that we have right now this election and having Trump, who would have thought 10 years ago we would have had a president and the battles that we're having currently? Only God knows what's going to happen after it and the problems that our great nation is facing right now. I think it's not just important to find out about knowing about money, but also what's happening around the world. And also in our country, in our nation, and the different underfunded liabilities that we're all impacting. I know I constantly dwell over that, but I think because my husband's going to be retiring in the next couple of years, I'm thinking, okay, he's projected to get, let's say, $5,000. But if he's not going to get guaranteed $5,000 for the next lifetime until he dies, I'd rather have $3,000 in my pocket than $5,000, and for it to be reduced and modified. So that way we work together. And I think it's the same thing. All of us in this room, if you're concerned about your retirement, make changes now. Because guess what? The people who have 10 or 15 years are the ones that are benefiting. They don't want change. But the people in this room and the people who are working are the ones who should consider doing these modifications for the future of our kids and at the same time for the future of your own benefit. Just like I've been preaching for the past couple of years, I'll come back and hopefully Diana, and the rest of the board members will know, and I'll keep in touch, like I have done over the years. But the key thing is to educate ourselves. The more educated we are, the less impact our schools will have, and at the same time, the better future.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Grace. All right. No board comment? All right, this is an action.
Can't help it. Sorry. We got till 10:30, man. We got plenty of time.
Member Rodriguez.
You were on first.
Who's on third?
He was on first.
I have a couple questions. What is the annual cost approximately of our retiree health benefits?
We pay about $20 million.
$20 million a year.
Mm-hmm. That's what the projection is.
So, I talked about this many times. We have a obligation that needs to be ironclad to make sure that our employees, all of them, certificated, classified, admin, whoever, that if they believe they're going to get healthcare benefits, that we need to provide for them. This district and all the representatives of these employees have done a grave disservice by not putting money aside back in the past when they should have to pay for this. There are many unions that do it the right way. The building trades unions pay as you go. And that's what we need to adopt here. That's $20 million a year that could be on the table for pay raises, for improving our facilities, for making our district the destination district that we know it's becoming. It's just we've been malfeasant, and we need to fix it. And when we have one-time funds, that's a perfect place to put one-time money, paying for the future. So when the inevitable declines that happen, we don't have to have mass layoffs, and we don't have to disrupt the lives of our students. So I want all of us on the board to be cognizant. $20 million a year. We're paying out of current budgets. And we saw the slide of healthcare costs are going up, 7.5%. Or, you look at that chart, 10%. It's not going down. So that $20 million is going to keep growing. And we should have had money in the bank to pay for that. And that needs to be a big part of our conversation going forward for everybody. We promised that. If I'm retired, I'm banking on having that. And I think, the public would agree with that. It's an obligation, but let's not hide our head in the sand anymore. It's for real. And, I hear a lot about this from folks out there. We need to talk about it. We need to be honest about it. And we have not done that. So I hope everyone will be adults about this. And remember, we're supposed to be working for the children and not us. So let's be honest about it and put money aside for that so we're doing the right thing. That really, really bugs me because it can be done, and it's done in a lot of other places. And we need to use those good examples to fix what we have done wrong. And all of us are responsible for that. And then lastly, just to talk more, facilities, that's another great use of one-time funds. So let's keep that in mind. That's how we're going to draw more students here, have more revenue for everybody, and make a more secure, prosperous destination district. So there's lots of good things we can do together if we're really serious about working in partnership and really serious about putting students first. So I think there's great opportunities for us. We're in a good position right now. We should take advantage of that, and let's all work together on that. Thank you.
Member Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Ready to get geeky? On page 3 of 172 of the budget.
Of
the budget.
Of the presentation?
It's not in your presentation. It's on the budget.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there.
You're there?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, so on the unaudited actuals for 15-16,
Mhm.
you have P2 ADA, annual ADA, funded ADA.
Yes.
And then, so how I read this is that we get funded based on that third column, funded ADA, right? So we got, our funding came from the state and feds on 38903.79.
Yes, Yeah, so that we still on declining enrollment, and what it is, our ADA, our prior year ADA was greater than this year. We get funding our prior year, so that they give us like a kind of planning purposes. So that's why the most districts they are like the ADA or the enrollment is not declining. They will get funded on P2. For us, is because we're declining enrollment, we get funding on prior year ADA. That's what this means.
So prior year ADA was?
Prior year ADA was 38,903 for regular students. And our prior year in this case, that will be 2014-15 ADA, because we are talking about we're closing the books for 15-16, so this is 14-15 ADA.
So that's why when we see P2 ADA, that's our actual P2 ADA for the district today, right?
That was for 15-16,
15-16.
correct.
So that's why next year we're going to be getting our estimated funded ADA at $38,836.99.
Yes, because we're still in declining enrollment, not as much, but we're still projecting declining enrollment level. Yes, correct.
Okay.
So that changes, then our picture changes. But remember, we get funded based on ADA, not in enrollment. So the students showing to school it's very important, not just for them to learn, but also that's how we get paid. Doesn't matter if they are SCUSD, they don't show up, we don't get paid.
Exactly. So that's where I'm leading to with this, is that it's not about the fact of we don't have the bodies enrolled with Sac City Unified. It's about making sure that those bodies show up and sit down in the chair in the classroom. And that's why we got these funky numbers of 0.79, 0.99, because you're actually being funded by that.
Right. It's based on the ADAs, to students showing to
Students
class.
showing up.
Right.
For every day of school.
The choice of school.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's really important, because when we talk about revenue generation, we have to talk about how do we communicate that to parents, because parents are the ones that are in control of making sure that their kids get to school. We're not in control of it. I mean, the parents ultimately in the house, or the guardians or the grandparents or whatever they are, they're in the household, they're waking the child up on time to get ready to go to school, whether they're catching the bus or driving them or walking them, right? So we're always talking about making sure we get more people to come, but that's only half of the problem. The other half of the problem is our chronic absenteeism and how we're losing ADA because of that.
I think it's a combination of both.
That's why I'm saying it's only half of the problem, getting the lower numbers, but we also have the numbers lowered and they're not showing up as much as they should. Okay. Then I'm going to go on to your presentation. Slide 14.
There.
Over
Yeah,
there.
right
The alligator, because it's going to get you. So I get it. And this is, you guys, I don't envy you. You have a hard job to communicate this out. It looks like there's this gap right in here of, boy, you have a lot of extra money. And I see it in the budget. I actually see it in your unaudited actuals, the tune of $28 million and some odd change, right? I see it. It's showing up there. But then a couple of pages later, you see this one-time fund balance, and you see all of the makeup in there and stuff like that. And then you see this like kind of obscure line that says, reserved to address known cost increases. What are those? I think you need to break it down a little bit more and say, no, those are healthcare cost increases. And you know what I'm saying? Those are the things that it creates that disconnect for the people who are watching this or are budget watchers. It creates that disconnect because they're thinking we're sitting on this pile of money, $21 million, and it's usable for other things, right?
Right. Yeah. And this, try to explain it. It's kind of with the time, but yes, we could explain some of those costs. we explain that the health benefits cost, the stairs and pairs, those are automatically cost increases that we know we will have. That those are the ones we're talking about, the OPEP, and those are costs that we need to deal with that. So right now we don't have the ongoing revenue, so we need to cover that or make some adjustments.
And when you say, let's just talk truthfully here, when you say or make adjustments, we're making adjustments in the classroom. If we can't cover those healthcare costs that we're obligated to cover. We
have tried to make the class far away from the classroom as before, but those, it gets affected one way or another. Sometimes you have a person who helps the clinic affects the classroom. So.
Exactly. Okay, so I just hope that helps to illustrate to our viewing audience that we don't have a bunch of money that's just sitting around, that I see where they're looking at, but you see where the point where we're at today is going to be even.
Yeah, the revenues that we got as history, that's is past, that's ongoing revenues. That is very clear that we will not have those anymore. That's unless something really happens in the future that will help us.
Yeah, and we're just being prudent and responsible, really, in our budgeting. So I don't know how else to better explain it, better describe it, but I hope that helped.
Thank you.
Rodriguez, those are great points. All right, this is an action item. Can I get a motion to approve the budget, the financial report? Thank you. A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. 12.0, business and financial information reports. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. It was just like, oh, let's just move on. He knew he was done. We have received the business and financial information and the 12.2 Head Start, early Head Start expansion reports. Item 13.0, future board meeting dates, October 6th here and October 20th here, both 4:30 close, 6:30 open. Student Board Member Rosas, would you like to adjourn us?
I move to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions. Great. Thank you.